So the other day we talked a little bit about how Joe Biden is hiring Gen Z influencers to try to do like rah rah Biden type stuff. Well, here we have one of them that I want to show you. This is Harry Sisson, and he says Gen Z won't sit back and watch as the Republican Party tries to destroy our country. So this is the kind of person that the White House has reached out to like throw them a lifeline in the new media world because they need to like astroturf support because they just don't have the grassroots support right now. Compare and contrast this with Marianne Williamson, who's blown up on TikTok. That says a lot, right? It says a lot that you need to like suck up to these people. And by the way, they even floated, we'll build you your own briefing room in the White House. Oh, Jesus Christ. So they have to play the tit for tat game. Like this is the way Washington works, right? It's the tit for tat game. It's the I scratch your back, you scratch mine. None of it's like organic. It's all astroturfed. And it shows how gross the system is. Well, anyway, let's listen. I haven't seen this video yet. I'm watching it for the first time with you guys, but I've been told it is mega cringe, as the kids would say. Let's watch.
What the Republican Party doesn't understand about Gen Z is we don't like you. You claim you want to appeal to Gen Z, but you call us stupid, you say we're dumb, you say we're indoctrinated. I promise it's a losing strategy. And Gen Z is watching the Republican Party extremely closely as they destroy our environment, take rights away from women, do nothing about kids being shot in schools. And if they think they can give the middle finger to our generation and get away with it, they're sorely mistaken. What the Republican Party doesn't understand.
I don't want to go too hard on the kid. You know, there was a time when I was Harry myself, young, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, little spring chicken Kyle, who was so against George W. Bush, all for good reasons, that when Obama came in, it's like you had super high hopes at the beginning. And I remember doing videos where I'm like, it's been one day of the Obama administration, and he's done more than George W. Bush has done in 8 years in office. And so I don't want to be too hard on the kid. He's going to grow, he's going to evolve, he's going to change, he's going to learn and all that stuff. But look, what would I call this? I'd call this like surface level, entry level political talk. That's what this is, right? Did you know that like Republicans are really bad and then Democrats are really good? And if I'm trying to break through to this dude, I would tell him in a very straightforward way, you're right about the Republicans, the elected Republicans being really bad part, but the Democrats are like the tiniest bit better, but nowhere near where they need to be, right? Like if you're really trying to explain politics to this person, does he have any idea about money in politics? Does he have any idea about the corruption of both political parties? Does he have any idea that the Democratic Party has also brought into the neoliberal framework that was birthed by Ronald Reagan and the Republican Party? So in other words, we used to have a Democratic Party that fought for unions, fought for broad universal programs like New Deal style programs, universal health care, higher wages, free college. You know, look at the economic bill of rights from FDR. And then eventually we got a Democratic Party that was like, what if we did a half measure on everything instead and left everybody out there to struggle in this dog-eat-dog, late-stage capitalist world? So, I don't want to be too hard on the dude. Yes, this is cringe. Some of the stuff they say there is true, but if this guy or these two kids actually care, I would tell them to look into Marianne Williamson. Like just learn about somebody who really is fighting to try to make things better. Learn about somebody who's against the corruption. Learn about somebody who wants to end the wars and rebuild our infrastructure and give everybody health care and give everybody higher wages and bring about unions and paid family leave, all these things. The Democrats pay lip service to some of those things and hardly ever deliver. And I don't know, just this sycophantic rah-rah cheerleading. Did you know Republicans are really bad, bro? It's like, yeah, I got it. The elected Republicans are TFG. There's no doubt about that. But to simp for Joe Biden is not the answer. My final data point, and you guys have heard me make this point 1,000 times before, but when FDR was president, at one point he held 80% of the House, Democrats did, and 80% of the Senate. And he won 4 presidential elections. Compare that to Joe Biden. Only 26% of the country wants to see him run again. 70% says don't run again. And even when you get like good Democratic wins in the election, it's always like, look at that. They won 50%.
And that's despite the propaganda he did for him.
And so there's a reason why we don't get these crushing margins anymore. And the reason is the Democrats do not deliver in the way that they need to in order to really be the party of the working people.
Welcome to a special edition of RBN Live Tuesdays. I'm one of your hosts for today. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick?
Hey, what's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome to RBN Live. We have a great show for you guys today. Make sure you guys check out. Of course, don't call me right when we start, but make sure you guys check out Rome's movie. Rome's
it's pretty fire.
Death to America movie, which is a fire movie. I'm super glad that it's still up and we're not banned on YouTube. If you haven't watched it yet, the time is ticking. But it was fantastic to see, very inspiring as well. That's the message of the RBN. We still want you guys to be inspired and get engaged. I have an event I run this Saturday. I talked to a few people who they need school clothes as well, and a few people need backpacks. So I'm kind of expanding the initial ask, but I don't think you guys care because it's about helping the community, right? So,
Right.
So I'm my plan to get a few people some backpacks, help some guys with some school supplies, and I'm asking you guys how I should do that because I'm thinking like, I don't want to be hoarding over his shoulder. I'm the kind of motherfucker that give him the cash and I'll trust you to get the clothes. You know what I mean? But I guess something I had to figure out. But we have some more people come by this Saturday. So that's what's going on the RBN activism front. I want everyone to try to get engaged locally if you guys can. Now, I see the story upcoming with the Gen Z guy and the Gen Z propagandists who are now going after Dr. Cornel West and his supporters, which shows that they are very, very scared. And the reason is because there are polls that show that 10% of Americans, there was one recently I saw our sister Sabby highlight this poll where 10% of the American people are like, we're looking for someone else to vote for. Like, and they just had other already. And then there's this large chunk, like 20% plus, that's undecided as well. So this is a giant momentum to crush the two-party duopoly. So the Gen Z influencers and the people like Vosh, here comes them. Because as I said before, the establishment seen the younger generation become more radicalized, become more resistant to two-party propaganda. So they have people like Vosh, Hassan Piker, and a lot of these Gen Z TikTokers that they're trying to do their best to sheep herd them back in the party. But the interesting thing and the good news is, because I want you guys to know, it's not a diss on Gen Z at all, because the only people who they are fooling are liberal boomers. Like,
Yeah.
they get roasted by their own generation. Like, if you look at Gen Z, Generation for Change, everyone retweeting and liking their posts are liberal boomers. Like, hey, look at these kids. Look at these one of the good ones. And meanwhile, everyone in Gen Z and everyone our age, I'm a younger millennial, roasting these motherfuckers. But go ahead, CJ. That's mine.
No, it's very cringe, and just like everything, you guys and everybody else was on these guys way months before I was, and I'm just now literally, Nick,
I saw
yesterday.
Yeah.
Like we covered them before, but I literally only saw the stuff that was in that segment. I haven't seen nothing else until now. Until I see the exchange that Bree has with them.
I haven't seen it.
Then I go and look at his page. It is every single post is cringe. Every single post is about the Democratic Party. I was just like, this is amazing. Then I look at videos. I go on YouTube, and it's tons of footage of just people making fun of these people. And then I found this video too. But why I wanted to play this one, Nick, was this was unmasking for Harry, whatever his name is, Harry Sisson, but also for Kyle Kulinski. And I heard you make a comment or say something when he said something in particular. Did you? And this is one thing in this video. If you notice, Joe Biden, when it comes to Marianne Williamson, he has no problem talking about how Joe Biden is terrible and the Democratic Party is terrible. But then when it comes to talking about Cornel West, the Democratic Party is way better than the GOP. Yep. And you noticed it here. 3 months, just 3 months ago, Nick, he's saying that the Democratic Party is a smidget, or let me get the exact phrasing he said, is a tiny bit better. How is a tiny bit and way better the same thing? 3 months later. Just showing you the professional managerial class, the Bernie Sanders industrial complex, the Sam Cedars, the Cenk Uygurs, the right here, the Crystal Balls and the Kyle Balls, aka Kyle Kalinskis. They're just here saying whatever, man, that brings eyes to the video so they can get paid. They don't care. This is about, Nick, this is just, it's like a war. Look at what they're doing like war, and they're the United States. What is the United States doing? They want to continue the war. They don't want to stop the war. They want to continue this grift. They don't really want to have a person reach the promised land like Cornel West win. Then what are they going to do, Nick? If Cornel West brings socialism, this is fantasy. I'm being fantasy. I'm living a fantasy. Cornel West gets elected and he's going to bring socialism. What the fuck is the Bernie Sanders industrial complex going to do for a living? What are they going to do, Nick? They didn't create Jacobin. They didn't took over DSA. You know how much money they're grifting off of this? Millions and millions and millions of dollars. They do not want the change that they're claiming, because if we reach the promised land, they're out of work.
Yeah, that's why our presence has been very inconvenient for them, because we've been debunking their narratives. For a very long time, these professional managerial class people have been giving the left bad advice, and Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball have most recently spread the nonsense about, if you like Dr. Cornel West, don't vote for him if you live in a swing state, because somehow the results of the election between two capitalist imperialist parties is supposed to be somehow our concern. So this is what they've been telling people, and this is how my way of squeezing this in one of our topics. Like people like Kyle, they've been purposely giving the left bad advice, and now with Dr. Cornel West, they have a very tricky job to do now, where they got to pretend that they still down with Dr. Cornel West, they're still down with what we're trying to do, while at the same time undermining it at every turn. So this is something that I watched countless third-party videos. I've seen many people talk about third parties, and they always leave this out, especially the people who pretend that voting for third party is a waste of your vote. I will make the argument that if you vote for someone and nothing materially changed in your life, that was a waste of your vote. It's obvious, right, CJ? You would think. Well, look at this. And I want to make very important points when I talk about this here, because we talk about how third-party electoralism is just a tool to use to engage in the real 85 to 99% of politics, which is community building, which RBN is doing. Honestly, forming militias, forming your own governments, which I think we need to be focusing on as well. Living in a late-state capitalist society, building revolutionary discipline, and building outside socialist parties as well. But it's important to get a third party in our system to 5% because you get federal funding, and when you get to 15%, this is when they used to talk about this. Now they don't talk about it anymore, CJ. Why 15 is the magic number for third-party presidential candidates, Gary Johnson and Joe Stein, who's not running, but you can fill in the blank with the current prospects of third parties. Now, as I mentioned before, are they going to allow us on the debate stage, CJ? Are we naive enough to believe that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But what does it mean for a movement to have a party that gets federal funding at 5% and have 15% support? We never seen that. An engaged movement that is engaged in outside direct action, mutual aid, community building, and has a direct goal of finding empire and improving the material needs of the people. Having a third party that have the structure of doing that. That is what these people are advocating against. They want 1 foot in the Democratic Party, 1 foot out. How does that make sense for the movement we are trying to build? How does the suggestion that you vote in a swing state for the Democratic Party help our goal to get 5% federal funding when they acknowledge that building a third party is hard, CJ? They tell us all the time, building a third party is impossible. You can't do it. Oh my God, it's going to be so hard. But at the same time, they tell us this extremely hard, impossible task that we have. We gotta divide our support and attention to it, CJ. How does that make sense?
I think strategically, and we'll talk about this more when we get to the segment, but I think strategically, we have to understand who are the people that's telling us to do this. Are the people who are telling us to divide our time people who are third-party activists? Or these are Democrats who are saying we're down with third parties, but let's do both? You get what I'm saying? It's all about who it's coming from. But to get back to Harry, because we can, since we already played the video, we can finish out the segment on this guy. And I do want to bring up something because, and we're going to intertwine talking about Cornel West too, because in this tweet, it talks about Cornel West. So we're kind of talking about Cornel West responding. I'm sorry, this is a different one. We're talking about Cornel West responding to the smears about taxes and child support, and also what this guy is doing. Here it goes. Also, what this guy Harry, I guess his name is Sisson or Sassoon, maybe is what he's doing. And this is the tweet I was looking for from Bree. And this is not the start of their exchange because she wasn't even talking to him. And then he came in. Obviously, he has been sent in to say, hey, there's been a lot of an unusual amount of radicalism going on. These people named RBN and Jimmy Dore, they're really ruffling up the feathers on the far left that we need. People like Briahna Joy Gray, we need you to go in and attack and bring in your bots. So this is what he says here. This is what I meant to do earlier. So this is his response to this. Oh, so I was in the right place. So look at this. George Takei. Now, we were talking about this yesterday, Nick, where we already broke this down, so we don't need to break down George's tweet, where he calls out Cornel West, and he brings up, the same talking point, 2021, Ralph Nader and Jill Stein in 2016. Briahna says this, and her tweet kind of goes viral, it blows up. If your goal is breaking the corporate duopoly, then voting for Dr. Cornel West is the most strategic choice. And we covered this tweet too, but this set off Harry, Nick, and this set him off to go after Cornel West. And he says here, how much does Cornel West owe in unpaid child support? And I was surprised, Nick, because I thought a lot of people is falling for the smear of child support and taxes on Cornel West. But come to find out, they're not. Because this guy gets ravaged in this shit. Like, people are going after him in this tweet, basically saying that this is a racist trope. Now, I don't know if I would classify it that way necessarily, but I get where they're coming from. This is a black guy, unpaid child support. In this instance, it's supposed to be, oh, there goes another black male not paying child support. And this is a new statistic I learned, Nick. 50 to 52% of black males are single and childless. So when you're talking about factual statistics, it doesn't match up. But when you're talking about the racist trope, that's what this guy Harry is trying to do here. And who is this going to work for? Is it going to work for the worker? Do you think there are any workers that are dads who owe some back child support because capitalism is suppressing their wages where they can't afford the money that they need to pay? Do you think a couple of people fall into that category? Or what about medical debt? Do you think people fall in the category of medical debt or any debt, college debt? So going after him in this way, it feels like elitist to me. It feels like you don't understand what daily Americans are going through with different types and a variety of debt. Did you get a chance to see this exchange yet, or is this your first time seeing this?
This is the first time I've seen this, but I've seen the attack, which is extremely desperate from the establishment. For one, you had Hunter Biden, who owed a ton of money in unpaid child support, and you also had Biden that owed a ton of money on taxes. So these are things that the working class struggles with, And I want you to go to that tweet as well, because Sabby has a great response where she explains this. Well, she said,
my bad.
Yeah, go. I want you to go to the tweet because she explains this as well. But the professional, managerial, white suburban mom, capitalist libs, they are class loyal. And they're Savage tweet, and we're gonna read that to her soon. So they see this as a character flaw. They see this as something to be extremely embarrassed by. Meanwhile, everyday ordinary people are like, oh yeah, he's one of us. This is actually not the own you think it is. So let me read Sabi, because Sabi know more about this than I do. Owing and paying are two different things. Just because you have a balance doesn't mean you haven't been paying towards it. You see the disconnect here?
Right.
They're trying to frame it as Dr. Cornel West is not paying anything, right? Dr. West has already addressed this. If it were Biden, you would be defending him, and they was, because Hunter Biden was playing the same position. In fact, Joe Biden has a granddaughter who's 4 years old, and Biden made a statement about her for the first time just a few weeks ago. And that's because she did damage control, because a lot of people caught wind of this, and a lot of Republicans and obviously a lot of anti-Biden people started attacking him. Like, Biden, you say you're supposed to be a decent guy, but you're ignoring your 4-year-old granddaughter because she's a political embarrassment, because Hunter Biden apparently hooked up with and had a child out of wedlock, and that's embarrassing for Joe Biden, so he disowned her. So he was forced to make a statement, you know what I mean, addressing and acknowledging her. But they want us to be, oh my God, look at this black man, Dr. Cornel West. So what Sabby said is 100% accurate. 100% accurate. By the way, Sabby is going to have Dr. Cornel West on tonight.
Oh, yeah, tonight, yes.
Dr. Cornel West is scheduled to come on next Tuesday on RB, and he definitely won't miss this one. We had to reschedule a few times, but we are solidly locked in for next week.
I'll say this. Yeah, I'll say this, Nick, because Rome and I have kids out of the RBN members. I think it's just Rome and I who have kids. So I can actually speak on this. I can actually speak on this from my own experience. So I have 4 kids, 2 with my wife and 2 before my wife. So my oldest 2, I had a child support thing, and there was times where I got back on child support. I think she was like 8 years old. My oldest daughter, whose name is Italy, she was like 8 years old. I had lost my job. Still was working, was trying to go to school, was still working, picked up another job, didn't even have a car. I was waking up at 5 a.m. to take the bus to be somewhere at 8 o'clock to a job, trying to catch up. So am I to be blamed for that? Is that me being a deadbeat, or is that me trying my best to keep up with this terrible capitalist system? And let me tell you something else about the child support system. They don't even keep good records. I was paying my child support. My child support got reduced by over $100. You know, they never changed it in the system. They kept billing me the same amount after it was changed for 4 years straight. And I just said, it's for my daughter. Man, I ain't even going to go back down there and do nothing. It got reduced. And after my daughter was of age, I didn't even have to owe no more. You know, it still showed me for years still having money that I owed, and I didn't owe any money. So, I mean, it's different levels, but you see where the attack on Cornel West is coming from. It's coming from the elite, and that's what people who are going to fall for the elite. But that's not what his campaign is about, Nick. This is people power, poor, working class, people who are in debt themselves. So saying, hey, the candidate you support has debt too, they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm glad I'm voting for him. That he makes him more relatable. And people who are elite don't even understand. Saying somebody has debt just makes them more relatable. And I'll read. Go ahead.
I'll be real quick, but this shows how ridiculous it is for the people. And I'm talking about the fake DSA socialists who don't believe in organizing along class line. You know what I'm talking about? The DSA socialists, they do not believe in organizing on class lines. So what they believe is that they have a better chance with organizing with liberals. So they see Harry Sisson, this white suburban kid who is a classist, who's engaging in racist tropes and classist attacks on the candidate, who's 100% class loyal. And they think that we have more in common with this guy than one of my neighbors who want healthcare, who may have some socially conservative views. I believe that's absurd, guys. That's absolutely absurd. And when we say organize along class line, we mean it. And then you have people who fall for CIA social democrat talking points when they say, "Oh, what do you mean organize on class line? You talking about organizing with racists?" Okay, shitlib. Let me explain to you something, shitlib. What racist is organizing for me to get healthcare, CJ?
It's so ridiculous.
Apparently, some racist motherfucker hate black people so much he organized with me to get healthcare. How does that make sense? What racist is organizing with us to disband the police state, CJ?
It makes no sense.
So when we say organize along class lines, it inherently excludes racists because they're not trying to organize with us. But you got CIA leftists that already repeat that shit. We can't organize on class lines. Can't organize on class lines. If they're racist, they're exposing themselves by being against us, our ops, like Biden voters. Right? But anyway, I'll let you continue. That's my story.
Yeah, I'll just read the tweet just so we can officially say what his response was. And this is because he's answered questions, but it's never been all that direct. It's been kind of just like vague. But here he specifically uses the word. I think he uses child support or children. So let's read it. And this is Cornel, and he just posted this actually yesterday. And this is one of the stories we didn't get a chance to get to. This is one of 3 stories I wanted to get to. But for the past 50 years, I have been facing heavy financial responsibilities to family and friends. I have always made my priceless children a high priority, even with lavish treatment that are not in records. The wave of IRS audits, fees, liabilities, levies, and liens have always been and are now resolved based on agreements set in place years ago. And this speaks to what Sabby's saying. Having a balance doesn't mean you're not paying it. And that's what he's speaking to here. He goes on to say, I do believe that we all should pay our fair share of taxes. I'm going to break this down because I have something to say about that. Especially the top 1%, like the 63% of my hardworking fellow citizens. I live paycheck to paycheck with dignity and determination. So there's a lot in here I do want to break down. And I sent you guys this text when I first saw this. All the RBN members, I just sent you my reflection on it. And what he's taught, what do you mean you're living paycheck to paycheck? Maybe it's unique to Black culture or Black upper class culture, but this is very common. Somebody in your family blows up, that means they're lifting multiple people in that extended family out of poverty. So you see this a lot in sports. If you think LeBron is just paying for his extended family, LeBron is paying for all types of cousins, all types of aunts, rich car notes. This is what happens in the black subculture when people blow up. This is how AI went broke. This is how MC Hammer went broke. They're taking care of so many other people who are in poverty, friends and family. So this is how you could be making a lot of money and still be living paycheck to paycheck. This is actually like how most athletes who are paid millions go broke. They go broke because they were taking care of family members. That is the reason. So to me, this sounds very relatable and likely. And the other part here, and then I'll pass to you for any comments, and we can move on. And that's this part, fair share of taxes. Because that's the critique. And I think it was I forget the guy's name, something Abrams. He does a show. He did something. He was like, we got this socialist who wants everybody to pay their fair taxes except for him. So let's get something clear. Capitalist companies and corporations and owners of businesses who are exploiting workers and not paying any taxes like Amazon is in no way like regular working class people who owe back taxes. Okay? Stop letting the ruling class frame what's happening. So what, even if what he's saying is what they're saying is true about Cornel West owing some taxes is not the same thing as Amazon. And it's not, they're trying to make it like it's the same, and it's not. That's my final words on this particular part, Nick. Any comment on you on what he has to say here?
Yeah, it's absolutely absurd. You have these giant corporations and these people who benefit from our society to steal our labor value, and they don't pay taxes, and there's not this moral judgment put on them. But now liberals want to cancel Dr. Cornel West for paying taxes, and I believe that paying taxes is something that could be a patriotic feeling, but I have a more radical approach than a lot of social democrats, because I honestly wouldn't even say what Dr. Cornel West said. I think what Dr. Cornel West said is smart, right? But when we live in a warmongering, criminal police state, I don't really think we're obligated to pay taxes to a state that's fraudulent. Now, that's a conversation for another day, because I am more of the mind of seizing the means of production. You know what I mean? So the system as it is, it's almost patriotic to get away with not paying taxes, because our system is conflicted with mass harm.
Right.
Now, these social democrats, and this is where
that's so true. That's so true. So true.
You see Marianne Williamson and Bernie Sanders and Democratic socialists, they get tied up on this all the time. I don't know if you remember this, but we covered this a while ago, where Marianne Williamson was on Fox, and they were like, how much will you tax the top 1%? Give me the exact number. Marianne was like, and they always get stumped on this when they like, what's the exact number? How was the exact number you tax them? And they get stumped on that question. We'll never get stumped, because our answer is that very simple. You pay back the labor value that you stolen. You pay back what is owed based on what the value that society is giving you, the protection, the benefits that you're getting. Right? So what you took from the work and we are taking back, we are seizing control of that. That's how we answer those questions. Meanwhile, Democrat socialists like, I don't know, 15%, is that good? 20%, that what Marianne was doing. Is that good? I don't know. Cori Bush was famously stumped by that question when she ran for office. I don't know, 20%. So you guys see how the framing is different between the Democrat socialists and the Marxists? Because our answer is the rich owes us. They owe us their labor value. So if you ask me how much I want to tax them, how much labor value do they steal? Profit is theft. So you want to have that conversation? I can span the conversation. What do you mean by taxation? Because I'm trying to save the workers from taxes, public and private. When you understand our point of view, we are hammered by private taxes, consistent private taxes called health insurance, all this other bullshit, right? And we want to eliminate that for the working class. And if you are the ruling class, the bourgeoisie, and you benefit from this society, you owe something of that back. And we're going to make that 100% clear. But CJ, I passed to you. I know we got a few more things to cover.
Yeah, just a couple of more receipts to kind of go over. We're kind of moving away from specifically only Cornel West and talking about Bree now, because, since the last few months, we've had our little spats about over Marianne Williamson over Bree, but seriously, it's not anything personal, not at least not for me, and I don't think for you either. So
I think we
don't like
on most things. We agree on most things.
Exactly. So this is something where we wholeheartedly agree. This is one of the many things we do agree, and we don't, I don't like people going after her for stuff like this. So we're going to call it out. And so she says, knowing the DSC is paying nothing. Zennial, what is that? Millennials. I think that's short for millennials, right? Or zennials? Yeah. I don't know, but you see what it is. To act like Dr. West has bigger tax problems than the Biden family is just one reason I look forward to voting green. And why I love this response is that this is the response all vote shaming should get. It's like, oh, really? I'm voting for him harder. I'm getting 5 more people to vote for him. You get what I'm saying? It's not to back down. It's to go ham at it. And let's just take a little break to welcome in our brother JB. I just saw you. Sorry, I wasn't looking. JB, and then we'll get back to this tweet to talk about with Bree. What's up, JB?
Hey guys, good to see all of you here. Good to see everybody who's watching here on the rewatch or who's in the chat. Good to see all of you. Yeah, it was interesting. On the JB show today, we actually talked about something that I think is really important for everybody to know, is that they are literally trying to put rent control in the hands of the Supreme Court justices all over the United States.
Good
Just
Lord.
to let you guys know, if you guys realize, you guys know this, I think, but a lot of people don't know that Justice Clarence Thomas is actually in the pocket of billionaire Harlan Crow, who actually has a real estate. He's a real estate mogul. So Harlan Crow will actually be in line to earn a lot more money if we were to take rent control and make it basically essentially illegal in the United States. And so because of this, and as well as private equity that are buying up a lot of homes like Blackstone, they're buying up a lot of homes right now, making us into a nation of renters and increasing the profits by increasing rent and making it too high, then making rent control illegal in this country is going to drive a lot more of us into homelessness. Over 1/3 of this country is actually renting. It's just like people like myself. And so this is one of the biggest stories that I think that people need to really pay close attention to, because if not, then this is why like doing like ballot initiatives and having more rental control or rental advocacy groups. One of the groups that actually was highlighted in one of the videos that I shared was KC Tenants, and I actually talked about how Nick is associated with KC Tenants and how they're doing amazing work there. And so if you guys can find any groups like that in your city, then you could do that. I also talked about the what happened at the film festival for Rome's documentary that was given some rave reviews by the people who were there. I also talked about the RBN Orlando chapter and the highlights about how that went in over the weekend. So that was great as well. And I also talked about the new good news story about how Orange County here in Orlando, Florida, we actually implemented free lunch program for all students regardless of income. So that was one of the good stories as well that I got to bring out on my show.
Awesome. Thank you, JB, for that rundown. Make sure you guys go check out JB's channel. He's been taking these classes. He already had spot on analysis, and it's just getting better and better. Like we say this all the time. I haven't said it in a long time. You have to watch RBN channels together, because we don't cover some things because we know JB is covering it or Sabby's covering it. So we work together to cover everything. So you might be Nick and CJ, you never talk about police shootings. Yeah, that's something we try to stay away from. But guess who covers that? JB covers that. A lot of activist stuff that we don't cover, Sabby covers. And then we cover some of the more of the red blue game liberal stuff. So we're doing it as a collective group. You got to watch all of our channels. Make sure you subscribe to JB's channel so you can get all of the teachings that RBN is doing here. So let's get back. And JB, I don't know if you saw the exchange from the young millennial guy that has been Harry.
He's Gen Z, by the way.
Gen Z. I'm sorry if I said millennial. Gen Z guy who has been pushing the Democratic Party and Joe Biden, and he went after Cornel West. We talked about that. If you want to chime in, you can. And he also went after Bree because of Cornel West. And here is one of the exchanges here. Okay, so let me go back just for JB's sake quickly. How much does Cornel West owe is what he says to this tweet, where she's just talking about how she's gonna support, Dr. Cornel West because of George Sakai. And then Harry says this, so she chimes in and says, knowing the DNC is paying no nothing Zennials, is that how you say that, JB?
Zennials.
To act like Zennials, to act like Dr. West has bigger tax problems than the Biden family is just one reason I look forward to voting green next year. And I was just saying how these are the replies we need to, these are the type of replies we need to have with these people trying to come after third-party voters. But just like, I think it was Sabby. Did I get this receipt from Sabby? I think it was Sabby, yeah. Oh no, it was from our own account, and we'll get to that to see who he's being paid for. But I just wanted to show you a couple of other things this guy is saying. And this video is cringe, so I do want to show you a couple of videos. And we may only be with this segment maybe another 10 minutes, not even that. So let's listen to this video. It's very cringe, so trigger warning here.
See, here's the crazy thing about the Republican Party. They think that women who get abortions and the doctors who provide that care should be sent to prison, but Donald Trump should be walking free. Does that make sense to anybody? I mean, let's just compare the two for a second here. Donald Trump is facing 91 felony charges, over 700 years in prison. He's being accused of falsifying business records, stealing classified documents, entering into a criminal conspiracy.
Let me tell you something. There's no 17, 18, and 19-year-olds talking about no damn classified documents, sir.
No.
Who is he? So to your point, Nick, earlier, this guy really is to make somebody like my mom who watches NBC. Okay, the young people are doing it too. They're on our team. That's who he's really to have older generation look down and say, okay, there is some youth that's on our team, that's in the middle road, that's for Joe Biden. Because people his age, I mean, I can't imagine, Nick and JB, that 16 and 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds are passionate in the way that he's speaking about Joe Biden or even politics. I know I wasn't like he was, but go ahead.
I'll say this. They are passionate, but not in this way, not about this particular subject. What they're passionate about is, will I be able to go to college and be able to afford the amount of money that they're, shafting me for? And as far as college debt, will I be able to afford a livable wage? And when I start working, or while I'm working now, right? They're thinking about the climate and will I even have a future so that I can reach middle age? That's what they're thinking about. They're not necessarily going after this. Now, they may be thinking about abortion and things like that, but it's not just the Republicans that are actually in the way of abortion. It's also Democrats who are they also vying for. Because let's be ask these two boys, young men, about Henry Cuellar, about how the Democratic Party is standing behind Henry Cuellar, even though he's anti-abortion. You see, here's the thing. They are talking about, oh my God, the Republicans this, Republicans that. While they're correct in what the Republicans are doing, they're also not talking about what the Democrats are doing in regards to standing in the way of women and people's right to choose for their own bodies. So if you're going to talk about it, stop it with the talking about only one side and not about the other. They're playing the red-blue game, and that's what they're doing. And they're trying to get Gen Z to participate in it. But the beautiful part about Gen Z is that they see past the bullshit. See what we as Gen X and millennials have done? Look, I want you, CJ, Nick, clap it up for yourselves, because we actually taught the kids to see through the bullshit. And then they are desperate. They're desperate to get this out, and they're looking like fools in the process.
Yeah. Now, I'm not playing full videos. I'm just getting snippets just so you guys get the idea, because I'm leading up to something here.
They can't.
No, they can't. They can't. And the thing is that I don't think the Republicans understand is that, like, Gen Z and young people are not just going to forget about MAGA and Trump. Like, one day Trump is not going to be in the party anymore. One day he'll be gone. But do they think that young people are just going to be like, oh, like, what was January 6th? Oh, wait, Trump tried to overturn the election? I don't remember. No, we're not going to forget this stuff.
They can't. They can't.
No.
Young people are talking about January 6th. That's new. I didn't know that young people are all jazzed about January 6th. I mean, have you seen the video or the claim that they make that they're not paid by the Democratic Party? They actually make this claim, and I know they made it in a video. I think it was the Tim Dillon show that I watched. They make the claim that it's silly, guys. We don't get paid. We don't get paid by the DNC. Now here's Ryan Knight's tweet. Now a couple of people tweeted this out, not just Ryan Knight, and it says, "You are paid by the DNC to tweet and attack actual leftists. You are white liberals. You are the white liberals MLK and Malcolm X warned us about, and that's absolutely true." And what they're showing here, So these are the two guys you just saw in the video. You see their Twitter things, and you see their emails there. But then he has receipts. Let's show this receipt here. I'm not going to show all of them because they're kind of actually shit. This is kind of small. I thought I could zoom in. They're kind of small, but these receipts, I don't know if you two can see them. I can't see them, but they show the payments. What I'll do is I'll put a link in the description box so that if you want to go look at the actual numbers, I just don't have the eyesight. I don't even think you guys can see that. It's very, very, very small. But I'm showing you to show you this, and this is where he goes after Bree. And this is where he says, because let me read it and then I'll comment. People like Bree are the worst of the left. They think voting green does anything positive. Trump, a proven sexual abuser and 4-time indicted fraud, will likely be on the ballot, and you decide to act all high and mighty? Give me a break. Just put your red hat on already. And that's what he says. That's what he says about Bree. Let me get your guys' comment and then I'll comment. But Nick or JB, I don't know if you've seen this tweet before, but what do you think about what he's saying? Like, because I take that as us. We are the worst of the left because we do see positive in voting for the Green Party. We do see positive in building outside. So Harry and these rich, frankly, privileged white people, white kids that are spewing this stuff about voting and building outside of the duopoly and describing it this way, and then to bring up that Trump is a sexual abuser, that's very rich, knowing Joe Biden's history. But Nick or CJ, or Nick or JB, if you wanted to chime in here.
JB, go ahead.
I know this twink ain't talking. So look, here's the thing. He's always going one side, but never showing the shit from the other side, right? This is how you know he's caping for Democrats. Because please go back up to his response. Please just scroll back up. Yes. Okay. He said, people like Briahna are the worst of the left. They're voting green. That's nothing positive. Trump, a proven sexual abuser and 4-time indicted fraud. Let's take Trump and replace that with Biden.
Yeah.
A proven sexual abuser, right? And what's going on between him and his son. Look, here's the thing. I'm not going to deny these things about Trump. Allegedly, it's true, right? Okay. But it's also the same truth about Biden.
Right.
So by us going against both, it shows our integrity in saying, okay, yeah, we're going to apply the same metrics that we do to Trump to Biden. And we're going to go, you know what? No, neither one of them, right? And so what Harry is doing is saying, well, you guys have to go with one sexual abuser over the other. What? Are you kidding me right now? He's like, well, my sexual abuser is better than your sexual abuser. Make that make sense, Harry. Come on, bro. I'm sorry, but you need to grow up a little bit more because, hell, my nephew, who's probably the same age as you, can probably figure that out way better than you can. Like, one is not better than the other. Two wrongs don't make a right. So guess what? Why would I try to vote for one and not the other? I'm gonna say F you to both of them. I'm gonna go the other direction. So you're mad at Briahna Joy Gray for going to the guy who didn't sexually abuse anybody? Does that make sense? Because here's my thing. If you're doing that, how are you an ally to women? You're talking about women's right to choose, but yet you go with Joe Biden, who, let's look, has done what he did to Tara Reid. Have you ever even reached out to her to talk about her experience? Or do you even care? Because apparently you care about what Donald Trump did, but you don't care about what Joe Biden did. That tells me that it's really about partisanship for you. It's not actually about helping women. If you really want to help women, then you reject both of them, but you don't care because it sounds like it's all about the money. Harold. Golly, it's like pick up some integrity while you're out there, please. It's crazy, man. Please go ahead. Nick.
Any final thoughts, Nick, before we close this segment, sir?
I just had a video that I want to play to close.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was saying this to the end, just so you guys exactly who this guy is. We did segments before exposing how these people are paid, right? And they are the people who are charged with being on the offensive. So I actually saw this maybe 2 days ago, and as soon as I saw this tweet, I was like, I know who this fucking guy is. He posted this absolute fucking cringe video and got ratioed to oblivion because he posted this quote unquote debate between him and the Trump supporter, which you will see is actual bullshit grandstanding because he has DNC ops paid in the background to cheer for him. So it's a very underhanded debate tactic that they're using. And so he posted this thing, he's slaying it, and he gets fucking roasted by the entirety of Twitter. And that's how I saw this a few days ago. And as soon as you start covering this, I didn't see none of the beginning. I immediately recognize this fucking scumbag. Look at this. Look at this unbelievable cringe. And he is so confident. I could easily swap aside all these points, but look at how he presents this, and look at the underhanded tactics that he used. Let me read it. It said debating a Trump supporter after Trump's first arrest outside of the courthouse in New York City on Hillary Clinton, FBI, and more. Now check out the argument that this guy fucking uses.
So whatever the FBI does is good with you.
Wait, the Department of Justice controls.
Yeah, whatever the FBI says is good to this guy. Listen.
By Donald Trump, even determined that Hillary Clinton didn't break the law.
I like the guy with the Trump hat better.
Speak to me, bro.
He's better than you.
He's silent. He can't say anything. He's got nothing.
Wait, how does that not matter? You're saying that Hillary Clinton broke the law under Donald Trump's Department of Justice.
Comey said we couldn't find someone who would prosecute.
No, Comey said she didn't break the law. Under the Espionage Act, Section F.
So what Gen Z kids are out here fiercely defending Hillary Clinton? But let me let it finish.
She did not violate it. He said that when he was testifying in Congress.
Look at this cringe ass shit.
Comey is a crook.
Yo, can I make an observation really quick?
So
you guys see people asking, why are you guys so proud of yourself? You just
Yo,
go ahead, JB, and I'll let finish after you. Go ahead.
You guys know that kind of like that GIF where that guy is rapping around a bunch of black dudes and he says something silly and the guys are like, oh,
yeah.
They're imitating black culture right there in order to make it seem like it's a win.
And look,
isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yo, it's crazy, man.
Look at this. I'm gonna go back so you guys see that cringe ass shit again. And they put this, and remember, he posted this as a win, and then he proceeded to get absolutely roasted on Twitter after this. Look.
Comey is a crook.
He's giving high fives.
Bro, look at the dynamic here, guys. There are older white gentlemen that they are debating that is telling young people that the government is corrupt. This is fucking crazy town. What world is this? CJ? It's supposed to be the exact opposite. It's supposed to be an old fuck yelling at the kids to trust the government. You got old people telling young people, Gen Z Democrats, that the government is corrupt and they won't buy it. And now look at his argument. His argument, I'm gonna let it finish here, relies on the message of authority. Look to his appeal to authority here.
You don't. Because I know what I'm talking about. You don't see the unfairness in our.
Tell me where I asked you. Where is?
He said this old guy says you don't see the unfairness with our system, and the young kid says where? What unfairness? You can't make this up. The old guy is convincing the young radical that this system is unfair. This is unbelievable. Actually, sorry, I keep interrupting. I apologize, guys. But I'll play that part again because that part is gold. I'll let it finish all the way through. I promise this time.
Why are you so proud of yourself? I know what I'm talking about. You don't. Because I know what I'm talking about. You don't see the unfairness in our
Tell me where. I asked you, where is it?
He's deleting 33,000 subpoenaed emails.
They had the emails, and Comey himself, the guy under the investigation, the guy who did the investigation, the guy who did the investigation determined that she did not break the law.
We have an
Bro, he dismantles his kid, and then his argument at the end is the very powerful rich white man said something. This is my gospel. So then the old guy says, he's like, hey, young guy, you know the government lies. He's like, no, they don't, old man. No, old man, don't you know the government always tells us the truth? This is crazy town.
Yeah.
But sorry, I want to share
unbelievable.
I acknowledge I didn't get a chance to ever cover that. I'm glad I did now. Because as soon as you cover that, I know exactly what this dude is. They all are fucking clowns. And we can write this segment because we got a few more things to cover. But if you look, I'll show you the ratio is 5,000, 5,000. He was after that video where he claims he crushed this guy. He gets dismantled by every other sane motherfucker in the room. Everyone who's not a Gen Z for Change Democrat saw that video and was repost that this fucking suck up, sellout, fucking weasel is defending the FBI and the government. And the old man is confused. Like, that's the fucking kid's radical. What the hell? I'm usually arguing on the right against what the fuck is going on here? And that's the reality we live in. We live in a reality where Republicans defend the Democrats defend the FBI and CIA. They believe the establishment while conservatives, well, at least a section of conservatives, are questioning authority. JB, go ahead, chime in.
Oh, of course, because here's the thing. If Trump were the one who was in office right now, that kid would have been saying what the old man was saying, and the old man would have been saying what that kid was saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the difference. And the thing is that the difference between those two actually that were arguing with each other and me, Nick, and CJ in front of you right now, we say no matter who it is, the government is corrupt no matter what. And so if roles were reversed as far as who was at the administration was going, as far as we're concerned, the old man probably would have been saying the exact same thing the young kid was saying. Because the thing is that ultimately it's about, oh, my party's better than yours. When in reality, we say, yeah, neither one of them are.
And to me, that gives us more credibility. And this is why they go after people like us. They go after people like Jimmy Dore. Because if you come in, just think about it. We can go into any room of red and blue, and we're going to have more credibility from both sides because we're coming in saying both of you are terrible. That gives us credibility on both sides, because Republicans, if we're saying Joe Biden is a fraud and terrible and all this, and then to Democrats, if we're saying Trump is actually pro-war, he's not actually. You get what I'm saying? It lends credibility to our argument, and that's why I believe like our path, the people that are in our sort of community and our sort of left space, we are the future. Our ideas is what the future will hold. So let me do a couple of announcements, Nick, and then you can pick up to the next story.
I do want to shout. Yeah, go ahead, CJ. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to shout out Rome's documentary for those that didn't have a chance to see it yet. I'll put up the graphic. Look for this graphic on our page, and I think it's in the I Am Revolution playlist. So look for it there. But Rome, that is the graphic for it if you want to check it out. The other thing is Nick and I, and whoever on RBN, other people are invited, but tomorrow we decided to cover the Trumpless GOP debates. So make sure.
This is gonna be at Nick at Night. So just to get some info, I was about to do Nick at Night. I was like, hey, they're about to have the debate, and you guys like hearing our opinions and our reflections regarding the Trump town hall. So I'm interested in watching this because I want to. The Ukraine segment is going to be very interesting because you got the Chris Christie neocons, the Asa Hutchinsons. I don't think Mike Pence made the debate. It's funny. That's funny. And you also and then you have the more Ron DeSantis and Vivek, who's more against the Ukraine war, and Ron DeSantis has been shaky on that. So that conversation, I'm more interested for foreign policy. So I decided we're gonna cover it so we can have an RBN special streaming event. So you guys don't have to worry about watching the cringe fucking news cycle. We can tell you guys tell whenever they bullshitting, we're gonna be there to actually correct it for real. But anyway, go ahead, CJ.
Real time, and it's I love doing that. Last time we did that was great. We had Kit last time, and that was a good. I remember that. Still, it was fun. Yeah, we can reach out and see if anybody else want to join. Yeah. And then the last thing I want to shout out is it's that time of the month again, where we're again raising money for labor. Towards the end of the month is when we start to raise it. I'm doing it probably a week earlier than normal, only because I want to get ahead of the game. So RBN employee fundraiser, help pay labor. Oh, let me take this thing down on the bottom there, so that you can see the full GoFundMe account. It's GoFundMe. I think that's GoFundMe dot whatever that is, /60A. Let me take this off again. 60A62228. I like to put those numbers on there to make it a little bit easier for everybody to go and find it. And that is it. I'm going to pass it to you, Nick. Let me take the graphic down, and you want to move on to the next segment.
Yeah, so we have quite a bit to cover here. Some mix of some stuff yesterday and a lot of current news going on today. We have the BRICS summit that's going on for the next few days. So that's going to be part of this presentation. It's very important. They met this I think they're like the 15th gathering or so, but this one is very important because you got the issue of the Ukraine war. You have the ICC warrant on Vladimir Putin. You have the West cracking down on China. But we'll get to that here soon because there's a certain order I want to go. Because you have Joe Biden who visited Maui, Hawaii after getting absolutely hammered in the media. So I had those two stories I'll cover in the next hour or so. I'm available here. So let's show. I'm gonna show you guys this because it's actually quite disgusting what's going on, because you have the privileged class warrior for the bourgeoisie, George Takaya, them Gen Z kids, all these people who are essentially saying that if you criticize Ukraine money spending, especially in light of the Maui crisis, you are repeating Putin propaganda. You are some sort of fascist right winger. But people have no idea how corrupt our government is. Like, they think there's some corruption here and there. The other party's corrupt. You guys have no idea. So this guy is going to explain how Biden is holding Maui relief aid hostage for Ukraine war funding. So let's let the video play, because this guy does a great job explaining.
Hey, good morning, everybody. On my way to the Hawaii State Capitol this morning, but hey, I wanted to come on briefly and talk about some of the issues happening nationally and how the federal government is going to help out with the relief in Maui. Some folks may not know that FEMA, the Federal Disaster Emergency Management Agency, is basically running broke. They are out of money. So Congress is trying to get FEMA more money. So Biden's administration just a couple days ago requested that Congress provide FEMA with $12 billion to extend the relief for Maui. But attached to that supplemental relief was $24.1 billion for Ukraine. Now, guys, once again, why couldn't the Biden administration specifically ask for money just for Maui's disaster?
But meanwhile, people like Marianne Williamson is like, what does Ukraine funding has to do with social spending and domestic politics? Remember, that's what Marianne Williamson's objection to Jimmy was. That is the NATO left objection. They claim that we shouldn't care about it because, hey, they don't care about you anyway. They want to be spending money on you anyway. So Ukraine funding is irrelevant because they're still not going to spend it on you, whether they're doing it or not. So you shouldn't care about it. That's the argument they make. But here he explains how they often, and they have done this in bills in the past, have very important bills that Ukraine is held hostage, that Ukraine holds hostage. That completely dismantles the talking points coming from the NATO left. But I'll let it continue.
But instead, he tied $24 billion for Ukraine. Once again, Maui, just $12 billion. Ukraine, $24 billion attached to that, which means if you don't vote for this supplemental request, then you are denying Maui $12 billion. He is holding Hawaii hostage. He is holding FEMA hostage. He is holding congressmen and senators who don't want to give 24 billion of our taxpayer dollars more to Ukraine. And if they don't vote for this, they'll make like, oh, these guys just don't care about Maui. They don't care about Hawaii. This is ridiculous. Biden should be ashamed of himself, and any politician here in Hawaii who supports this administration and the corruption and just the sidelining that they're doing should be ashamed of themselves. Maui needs help. America needs to come through for our 50th state, and $24 billion for Ukraine should not be attached.
So where are the progressives speaking out on this? I'm just asking rhetorically as I let it finish here.
To our supplemental request. Click on this link right here because Civil Beat did report on this morning, and there are both Republicans and Democrats who are asking for Congress to give FEMA more money. But why attach $24 billion for Ukraine to it? That's just ridiculous. Just some morning thoughts, guys. Have a great day and God bless. Aloha.
Got a few more short clips, but CJ, JB, what's your reaction to this insane development of Biden tying Maui aid to Ukraine war funding?
I mean, it's a classic neoliberalism. I mean, like, you cannot get more neoliberalism than this. Is that you understand that nobody is going to support, or you don't have the support because Republicans run the House. They don't have the support you used to have for the Ukraine war, which is another story in itself. That the GOP is the backstop for all this money. That's another story in itself. But to go to this is so a neoliberal move, is that we know you don't want this. Yeah. But in order to get this relief for your dying relative, your dying kin, your dying fellow human, you got to give us more money for the weapons manufacturer or no deal. You telling me that's not a psychopath? You telling me that's a person that's for the worker, that this is a labor president? It's so ridiculous. But and this is something I didn't know, Nick. This is the first time I'm hearing this in this video. I didn't know this at all. Go ahead, JB, if you want to.
JB, go ahead.
You guys remember the movie Set It Off?
Yes.
Okay. Remember when Stormy had to sleep with that man in order to get money for her little brother to go to college? Mm-hmm. This is the same thing. They're basically saying, okay, we'll give you the money for Maui, but in order to do it, you got to fund the war in Ukraine. So basically, they attach a poison pill to something beneficial. This is how they do it. And they do this every single time, right? This is basically that slimy dude that's putting his hand on your shoulder and saying, I'll give you the money for what you need, but what are you going to do for me? That's basically what's going on. And that's why this feels so slimy. This is how you feel like you need to take a shower knowing this information. That's why.
Yeah. And I just put up earlier, this is why the majority of Americans don't support Ukraine war funding, right? And we covered the extreme radicals, the people who was radicalized by CNN and MSNBC to support war. Even 4 out Democrats don't support it anymore. Like, when you look at the numbers, it's pretty interesting to see. And stuff like this is exactly why. When they see that our government is essentially engaged in a money laundering scheme in Ukraine while abandoning our own people. And liberals think we are stupid. And that's why they're shocked when people are calling this out. And I'm going to show you guys some people in Hawaii calling this out. Listen to this person here.
So why aren't you taking care of what you claim to be in charge of rather than sending out all these funds and whatever else you guys are sending to Ukraine or anywhere? Take care of here first. You know, I don't see why any president wouldn't step up and take care of what's part of their, territory. I think it's a stupid move on his part. Biden, he's an idiot. Sorry. No, not sorry. So
Biden's fucked, guys. Because so liberals and people like Harry can attack and gaslight all they want, but is this someone that look like they're overly online? that they're part of some
Not
sort
at
of
all.
anti-imperialist, overly online left. This is an ordinary person. Like, why the fuck you send so much money to Ukraine while we're struggling? That's everyone's saying. I know people in my personal life saying that shit. Don't follow foreign policy. Say one lick, but they see all this damn money going to Ukraine, asking questions, and then talking to us like, well, you don't understand. We gotta do this in order to weaken Germany's energy dependence on Russia. Do you think she gives a fuck about that? Do you think she gives a fuck about weakening Germany's energy dependence on Russia? Do you guys think that these people care about NATO expansion into Ukraine? I'm gonna show you guys one more. This is another great example. Do you guys think this guy cares about NATO expansion to this point?
So let us get back to our island. We can survive. If the United States government don't like help us, maybe Japan going, they love Hawaii. Maybe one other country, but it's if they can freaking take care of Ukraine, yeah, $40 billion go to Ukraine. Fucking shit ain't coming to us. What the fuck? My tax paying money for 60 fucking years don't mean shit. But they're gonna take care of Ukraine, 40 fucking billion.
Damn.
So let us get back to
who are not nerds like me are quoting the exact amount. Nigga, CJ, they know. They're quoting the exact like 40 fucking billion? People not engaged in politics. Biden is fucked. What kind of propaganda are they going to engage with? They're going to change this guy's mind.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, look, if you're not going to help the people of Hawaii, then it's either going to be one. It has to be one of two things: either help the people of Hawaii or give Hawaii their independence. That's what I say. If you're not going to help them, if you're not going to treat them like a state within our union, then let them go. Let them be free. Let them have their own land back, motherfucker. Because the thing is that if you're not going to help them, then what the hell are you doing just hanging on to them for? Right? That's like being in a relationship and you're constantly running out on the person you're in a relationship with, and yet you don't want to let them go. You don't want to give them that divorce. And they're like, give me a divorce. You're like, no, I don't want to give you a divorce. Like, see how sadistic that is? That's crazy. That's wild. Like, let them go then.
So now, in response to this, because Biden's fucked, you know what I mean? Well, just like all elections, I will say this. I'll correct myself here. Like all elections, is going to be a race to the bottom. It will be a race on who can turn out as many two-party duopolist cultists as possible. I think we're going to see a record amount of Americans who don't vote. They probably should have voted third party, but we're going to see a record amount. So I as much as I want to say Biden's fucked, it's going to be another race to the bottom. I think that's a more accurate analysis. I'm going to be honest. So I'm going to show you this. This is what I covered before. You had the White House that tried their best to play this off, CJ. AB. You had the liberal propagandists. I'm sure if you found Gen Z for Change in their Twitter, they were probably attacking people over this. I was going after Biden. I have a few viral tweets where I was like, why Biden not send money to Ukraine? I have one of my hotspot videos I talk about it. And there was a few people liberals that responded. They all got ratioed because my community is based, right? But they always like, don't you know that Joe Biden had emergency use authorization? They was all using these talking points. And in my short video, I explained how Joe Biden is sending 2 times more money to Ukraine than Maui disaster relief. So they try to blow the criticism off, as you see in the Hill. And it was so bad, now Joe Biden had to visit Maui, Ukraine. Maui, Ukraine. They would have got money if their name was Ukraine. That's what American cities should do. Name themselves Ukraine. They probably get extra money. But here's Joe Biden visiting Maui. And this is exactly why they didn't want him to go. This is exactly why they don't want Biden to go to East Palestine. So you can't make this shit up, as David says here. Let's play this.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press. It was a sunny Sunday, and lightning struck at home on a little lake that's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond, and hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating ducts, the air conditioning duct. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. But all kidding aside, I watched the firefighters, the way they responded. You know, there's an old expression. I grew up right across the street from a fire hall in Claymont, Delaware. And the expression.
That crowd is dead.
This clown
It's
shit.
done.
Yeah, because of course his cat and Corvette is just as equal as the hundreds as the 100 people that's died. They're equal, but this is so terrible. And this is so and I'm trying to say this in a certain way. This is so a part of white culture where you have no idea about other races than white. And then when you try to say something to be like, I know where you are, you sound like a complete idiot. This is based on years and years and decades of white populations not having any interest in any other people's what's going on in their lives. Because for you to say this is similar, you know how this is not similar, Joe Biden? If your house got destroyed, you would just go to one of your other 5 houses, sir. That's what would happen. Or you would just dig into your bank account and spend $20 million on a house.
Underneath our home.
But you trying to act like this shit is the same. You almost lost a Corvette. Oh, that's the same as losing my only house that I have, and now I'm homeless. It's so like devoid of sympathy, even though that's what he's trying to do. It'd be like a white person telling a slave in 1835, yeah, I know what it's like to be a slave. One time I had to work overtime at work. One time I had to work overtime at work, and that shit was a doozy.
No,
so
CJ,
I get your plight, slave.
CJ, we just saw this. We just saw this when they said, man, the mandates was like Jim Crow. The mandates was like Jim Crow.
Yeah, that's another story. That's another story.
Well, to your point,
yes.
CJ, go ahead.
But
Go
no,
ahead,
that's
JB,
another story. But go ahead, JB, if you wanted to chime in. It's infuriating. That's one of the more I've seen. That's one of the more infuriating, even than the sleeping one, because for you, it is so out of touch for you to act. One, why do you got to act like? Why do you have to give off that you've been through it too? Why can't you just say, I'm here to help you in any other way? Why do you have to come and be like, I feel your pain? For what? Go ahead, Nick, or JB, whoever wants to chime in.
JB.
The opinions of JB are not reflective of the opinions of Revolutionary Blackout Network or its subsidiaries. I wish Joe Biden lost that 67 Corvette. I wish he did. I wish it went up in flames. I hope that Corvette breaks down. I hope it rusts from not using it because he can't drive it. Well, he can't drive it. So my thing is that here's the thing. When you have somebody who, this is an attempt to be relatable, but it's such a failed attempt at relatability that he falls flat on his face because he can't relate. The better position would have been to, I can't imagine what you guys have went through. This has to be something that, I'm sorry, I can't empathize with you, but I'm gonna do the best that I possibly can in order to help you guys out. And so this is why, and then say, I'm gonna give this many billions of dollars in a separate bill to you guys to make sure that Maui is whole again. That's it. That's all. I would have went and did a joint session in Congress and said, what happened in Maui and more importantly on Lahaina was absolutely atrocious. What we need to do is just clear our schedule, put this on the floor, and I encourage everybody to vote it. Let's make it unanimous and make it a standalone bill and make it so that everyone can have their house rebuilt in Lahaina. But they don't care because they never have. And then he throws out these crumbs saying, well, I almost went through this too in my house, even though I'm rich and I have a 67 Corvette. Like, nobody gives a shit about your 67 Corvette, Joseph. What we care about is people actually having a house to live in. And this is what is mind-boggling, because somebody like this, somebody like Harold will actually talk for and speak for and defend. Like, come on, Harold. Are you going to keep talking and defending this guy? Or are you actually going to recognize that he's just as bad? This is Joe Biden's Puerto Rico. This is Joe Biden's Katrina. Acknowledge it and go after him on this. But I'm sorry. Joe's the best president we had. Give me a break, Harold.
So we're going to end the segment on this video I did on Biden taking heat for response on the Ukraine.
In a rational society, Joe Biden will be finished after how he handled the Maui disaster. So we have the most deadly fire in United States history that killed hundreds and maybe 1,000+ people in Hawaii. But Joe Biden can't even take time to comment on it. Can you imagine how liberals would have melted down if Donald Trump, when asked about the Puerto Rican hurricane under his watch, said no comment? It doesn't help that as this crisis was unfolding, the Biden administration approved of another $24 billion to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Joe Biden sent half the money that he sent to Ukraine to disaster relief in Hawaii. You can't make this up, fam. They are literally telling you to your face they don't care about you. So as Joe Biden and the United States government is paying for the salaries of Ukrainian government officials, the United States is only sending $700 to Maui fire victims. The U.S. response has been so horrible that Maui residents have been forced to organize themselves and take care of themselves because the government doesn't care about them. Maybe if they would have named Maui Ukraine, maybe they would have got Joe Biden's help.
Any last thoughts? I think CJ will be back here soon. But that's the Biden Maui Ukraine segment. So I saw a poll where Trump is at historic disapproval because most people know that he's a corrupt fraud as well. But I think this is a very bad moment for Biden because, like, people see that he's just openly funding war, openly being corrupt, while he has another failed response just like East Palestine. But next topic, I'm going to talk about the BRICS summit. Any last thoughts on this topic before we move on, Biden, on Hawaii or Ukraine? Because this is very relevant because one of the reasons why this BRICS summit is important, this is such a big marquee event, is because of the eve of the Ukraine war and Putin's ICC charge. But CJ, JB, anything you guys want to add real quick before we move on?
Yeah, I do want to add a couple of things here because we almost got to this segment on Biden yesterday. And if we got to it yesterday, we would have been covering it from the point of view that he has not gone there yet. But I do want to just show some reaction because some of the points that are made in the reaction is good points to include in the segment before we get out of here. And believe it or not, we did another story just a few moments ago on Harry Sisson. He actually chimes in on this too. That'll be one of the tweets that I show. But I'm going to show you about 4 tweets just talking about this. Let's start with, we can start with Harry since it's at the top, but listen to how he describes this disaster. And this shows you, and to your point, Nick, you were just talking about this, people like this guy, Harry, or maybe it was JB, you're going out there and saying things good about Joe Biden when he's terrible. Now listen to what he says here. He says, look at what he says here. Wow, the governor of Hawaii just praised President Biden's response to the wildfire, saying, quote, the president within 6 hours met our needs with the federal movement. I don't think that's ever happened before, end quote. Exactly. He acted quickly and effectively. Thank you, President Biden. And that's Harry. Go ahead, Nick, if you were going to.
Well, we just played clips from the amazing Hawani K. Trask, the late great Hawaiian indigenous activist. who explained how the government of Hawaii is the pimp of the people. They are fraudulent government who don't represent the people. And once again, his argument is hinged on the appeal to authority. Look at what this guy in charge says. Of course, the Hawaiian government, who's 100% complicit with this, I wanted to say that after their ridiculous disaster bundling response, now they want to pat themselves on the back, meaning the government. Oh, Biden is doing such a great job. Are we doing such a great job? Yeah, we're doing such a great job. Of course he would say that. Why are you not reporting on what the people on the ground are saying? Let's continue, CJ.
Yeah, now I didn't. Yeah, I don't think you showed this video, but this is him sleeping. It's no sound. I don't believe it's sound, but so he goes there. Now you tell me, bro, who is running the country? JB and Nick, who's running the country, man? There's no way this guy is running the country. None. This is him sleeping. What could he do, man?
That's why they don't like him being out in public, CJ. Because you have more moments like these. He can barely keep it together. And it's CJ. I saw some bullshit liberals that was trying to fact check. They're like, well, technically, he looked down and he has his eyes closed for a long time. That don't mean and they were trying to say that, well, this video is out of context because it technically shows he slept for a few seconds. He later gave it. No, CJ, bro. There's a Newsweek article. Here I'll show it to you. I'm not gonna read it.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm glad you did it because I actually forgot to show this because they tried to fact check this. Him sleeping, and what they essentially say is like, yeah, well, he actually wasn't asleep because he actually gave a speech later. Like if he was asleep, he wouldn't gave a speech later. As if people can't. Oh shit, I got a speech to give. As he won't wait. And they use that.
Say Joe Biden's woke.
Boom! Look, he said he was bowing his head. That video, they said, don't believe your lying eyes. That video we just showed you, CJ, you can, if you don't mind, pull it up again after I show this. It showed the president bowing his head with eyes open before returning his glance towards the event stage. That is not what we just saw. In RNC, liberals on damage control mode, trying to lie about what the fuck we seen. CJ, sorry to put this up, but I want to put the video up again. See, is that what we see in that video? Put the video back up again. Because I'm like, I saw this video, I'm like, you guys are full of shit. And liberals are already posting. They say, see, look at this fact check. He wasn't asleep. No, nigga, we see this motherfucker sleep in this goddamn.
We can see the video, man. All right, so let me hold on. I gotta go to the right tab. All right, right here. So let me go down to the video. Okay, yeah, it's at the bottom. Here it goes. All right, so let's watch it again.
Sleep. Yeah, let's watch this. And I'm telling you guys this because they're already using this. They're already going on the offensive, trying to say that anyone who say that Biden's sleeping is spreading fake news. Look, you guys telling me this guy's awake. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck
What is he looking at then if he's awake? What is he looking at? If he's awake, then what exactly? He's looking at the top of those soda bottles. What is he looking at if he's awake? I mean, just answer that question. If he's awake, what is he looking at? It's not a notepad down there or anything like that. It's sad. It's sad. It's akin to them saying all of his gaffes is his stuttering problem.
Yeah,
it's not stuttering. It's just him.
JB, if you want to chime in.
All right. Yeah.
You see, the thing is. Anyway, go ahead.
So we can cover the BRICS summit. I don't know 30 minutes, so I think I'll cover this real quick. I'm
we can be done after that. We can done.
So
whatever 30 minutes gets us, I'm fine with.
So what's going on right now? I want to pull this up right because you have BRICS, which is a giant threat to U.S. hegemonic dominance in the U.S. dollar. You already had Putin at this event that said de-dollarization is happening, and there's nothing the West can do to stop it. So right now we have BRICS, and if you guys don't know, the GDP of BRICS countries is already larger than the G7. When you look at BRICS, this is an organization that makes up around 25% of the global economy. They have around 40% of the world population, 30% of the global trade. They have the biggest markets, and they have a vision of giving people an alternative in a way to escape and bypass U.S. sanctions. That is what this is eventually going to lead to. Now, when you look at what each leader says in BRICS, they have different messages, and I want people to understand that. They're not 100% uniform. You have Xi Jinping, and if you have Putin, they are aggressively fighting for breaking up the U.S. dollar, destroying U.S. hegemonic dominance. Lula, if I'm going to be critical of Lula, I would say Lula's been weak on that. Lula, he supported BRICS, but he supported BRICS, and when he talks about it, he even say, like, man, I'm not really trying to take on the G7. Once again, I think this is a criticism of Lula. He said, yeah, it's an option, it's an alternative of the G7 nations. And I'm gonna show you a clip of Lula been lobbying for Argentina to join BRICS, and he been calling out the IMF. And IMF and the financial crimes of the IMF is one of the biggest reasons why Lula wants to have an alternative to the Western systems. And the messaging you hear from Lula is a lot about sovereignty and giving people choices and options instead of bowing down to the U.S. regime. So what's very interesting is, despite you have the giant new bloc that's developing, that's a giant significant part of the global population that now surpassed the G7 and GDP, and now you have even more nations that express desire to join BRICS, right? And now this is where you have Putin and Xi Jinping that is calling for a rapid, and you have the leader of South Africa who's calling for rapid expansion of BRICS. You have Lula, who his message is, we got to make sure that we have countries that share our values. We got to make sure we have a coordinated effort. So Lula has been calling for a more tempered and more measured approach towards BRICS expansion. But he still wants BRICS to expand. He's been calling for Argentina to be one of the biggest, the newest people who join. So here are 23 nations that officially expressed desire to join BRICS. You got Algeria, Argentina, who expressed desire. I'm going to show you guys a clip here soon. Actually, I think I'll push that up next, because Lula at the G7 was speaking about that in the IMF. Bangladesh, Bahrain, Belarus, Bolivia, Venezuela, Vietnam, Honduras, Egypt, Indonesia, Iran, Cuba, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Morocco, Nigeria, the United Arab Emirates, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Thailand, Ethiopia. And there have been debates among the BRICS nations regarding Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Venezuela. I saw Lula say something that was actually pretty disappointing, where he said he's very hesitant about having Saudi Arabia and Iran in the alliance. And I want to dig in and see what his logic is. But it was about having a unified message, having a unified goal. And he said he was worried about having Saudi Arabia influence in considering their values into the BRICS nation. And there are people who criticize Lula for that, because they say it should be about people who want an alternative to the U.S. system, who want to take on the U.S. system. But Lula is more of a if he has very strict litmus tests that he's putting on the BRICS nation. This is what he talks about a lot. So with that said, we see a lot of countries that want to get involved, and Lula has been speaking out a lot about how we got to be very strict on who we let in. But here's him speaking on Argentina. I want to play this clip, and he calls out the crimes of the IMF. So I'm going to let this video play, and then I'm going to sum up kind of, just for the sake of time, what he's kind of saying, because he called out how IMF and the role that IMF played in bankrupting Argentina, how the IMF in the West don't give other countries an option other than harsh, penalistic, exploitive financial systems, to say the least. So I'm going to just play this quick video real quick so you guys can see it. You can see how passionate he is about getting Venezuela in the alliance.
Que quando houve a crise em 2008 nos países ricos, o FMI não se manifestou. Até parecia que o FMI não existia. Agora, quando tem uma crise em qualquer país pequeno, seja da África ou da América Latina, o FMI resolve dar palpite, resolve falar, resolve meter o bico. Sabe, quando na verdade ele deveria ajudar. Deveria ajudar, mas não ajuda. O dinheiro que ele põe lá é quase como se fosse um cabresto. O país fica preso àquilo e não consegue sair. E a gente pode ver isso, a situação da Argentina. Como é que está difícil por causa do empréstimo que foi feito por interesses.
Because the loan was made for the political interest of the IMF. And he's talking about that now. But I'll let it continue.
Político do FMI, os 44 bilhões emprestados ao Macri na época das eleições. Há quem diga na Argentina que esse dinheiro foi emprestado por conta das eleições para que o Macri pudesse ganhar as eleições. Ele não ganhou, o Alberto Fernandes ganhou e o Alberto ficou com a dívida e que agora tem que pagar. E nós sabemos da situação da Argentina. Teve uma seca muito forte, perderam 25% da sua agricultura. E eu, por exemplo, defendo que os nossos irmãos da Argentina possam participar dos BRICS. Eu defendo isso, vamos ver na reunião como é que fica, mas eu defendo, se vai ser agora, se vai ser daqui ao mês, 2 meses, tudo. Mas eu defendo que é muito importante.
But I argue that it is very important for Argentina to be in BRICS. Just highlighting some few very important things you're saying.
Importante a Argentina estar nos BRICS, e até porque tem uma coisa muito importante, o Brasil não pode fazer política de desenvolvimento industrial sem lembrar que a Argentina é um país que tem que crescer junto com o Brasil. Nós temos que compartilhar as coisas que nós fazemos com a Argentina.
Nossos empregos, né?
É isso que eu quero. Eu quero que a Argentina tenha poder de compra para comprar mais e tenha coisa para vender mais.
And there's a point where he mentions how you have an Argentinian president that take IMF loans and funds and they are backed up by the Western government, and then a new party will take over, and now they're stuck with IMF debt, and then all of a sudden they got to do the bidding of the IMF, a new government that didn't even sign up for this. You guys see how it's a way for the West to have a permanent stakeholder in the country, no matter what the people want, no matter what the government has. You can have a revolution, you can change the government, you can reject the ideology of the old government, but you stuck with the IMF loan though, and they will control your sovereignty. Feel free to interrupt anytime, guys. There's a lot to cover, and I'm going to be covering this a lot in the next week. You guys know I love this shit. We got meetings going on with the BRICS. This BRICS summit is a few days. I'm just summing up some general themes. You had Xi Jinping that arrived earlier today. He was kind of late. Vladimir Putin, he's not attending. Well, actually, I think he did attend. I'm sorry,
and not in person, virtual. He's attending virtually. He had
a virtual because he had a arrest warrant on his arrest, so he gave a virtual address, which I'm gonna show here soon. When he's talking about the end of de-dollarization. Here's Lula. I got this one. I'm gonna show you guys one more thing. Lula says, "We were always treated as if we were the poor part of the planet, as if we didn't exist." Adding, suddenly, we are realizing that we can become important countries. Brazil GDP this year will reach over $2 trillion and has become the 10th largest economy in the world by GDP, with a tendency for great growth in the future. The Brazilians are waking up. Now, once again, I have criticism. I think Lula should be more in lockstep with the strategy and mindset of Xi Jinping. His messaging has been all about sovereignty and options for countries. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping Putin like, hey, we got to dollarize. I'm gonna show you guys Putin. We got weaken U.S. headquarters. Lula, to be clear, is not necessarily saying that. He is saying something good where he wants people not. He criticized the IMF. He criticized the West and how they handle these countries. But he's more like, we need to have more solidarity amongst each other. Have Latin American currencies. Have trade amongst each other. So that's his argument. Anything you guys want to chime in real quick before I move on? We're not going to be too much longer of a segment. I'm just trying to summarize generally what's going on. But anything you guys want to chime in, going once, going twice before I move on?
Yeah. No, go ahead. Oh, go ahead, JB.
Yeah, I saw this tweet. If I can share it really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is interesting, and I saw this. I was just like, "Well, this is true." This goes in line with what you're talking about. Shout out to Rev Lascar. BRICS didn't destroy Iraq. The U.S. and NATO did. BRICS didn't destroy Afghanistan. The U.S. and NATO did. BRICS didn't destroy Yugoslavia. The US and NATO did. BRICS didn't destroy Libya. The US and NATO did. BRICS didn't destroy Syria. The US and NATO did. BRICS is not the problem. And that basically just sums up for what anybody is talking about BRICS as a problem. They didn't destroy the world. The US and NATO did.
Yep. That's why they're not buying. I'm sorry. That's why they're not buying the bullshit from the West anymore. And I'm gonna cover this later this week. How you have Algeria that called out France and the West for plotting to use their airspace to launch attacks on Niger. And now the French government is denying this, but they called out the West and they're demanding them to leave Niger alone. You see more African countries doing this because they are tired of, and they know who the bad guys are, the West. And just like BRICS, you got people who are standing up against them as well. So I'm going to show you guys this. This is the South African president. We won't play too much of this. This is, we have all the big players that are giving their speeches.
20 countries from around the world have formally applied to join BRICS, and several others have expressed an interest in becoming part of the BRICS family. South Africa supports the expansion of the membership of BRICS. The value of BRICS extends beyond the interests of its current members.
Seldom have we seen Cyril Ramaphosa really espousing his foreign policy chops, going on to outline why South Africa has taken the stance that it has, particularly when it comes to the conflict in Ukraine, why South Africa views the BRICS grouping as a very important club and a channel and an instrument for the future of how the world will look, but also how Africa as a whole fits into the bigger picture. The president went on to highlight the fact that Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, will be on his fourth state visit here, and they are expecting to announce major deals that will be signed with the country's biggest trade partner. But of course, China is the biggest trading partner on the continent as a whole.
And now I'm going to show you this here. I got a few clips I'm trying to go through here in a decent amount of time. This is Putin, and once again, this is this is the language I want Lula to use more often. You know what I mean? And that's a criticism. I don't think it's a harsh criticism. I just think Lula is letting the West off the hook too much in the language that he's using. Look at what Putin is saying.
Предпринимаются усилия по отработке эффективных механизмов взаимодействия и валютно-финансового контроля. Набирает силу объективный.
And that's President Putin announcing the irreversible process of de-dollarization. And I think this is the last clip I want to get to. And I'm going to show you guys the code come from some Western media and how they're trying to spin this. And I already seen a few stories from Western media that don't align from what I've been following. I'm going to say it like that. Where they trying to say that BRICS is this uncoordinated, disorganized, divided thing because they wasn't forced to acknowledge it. Now they're acknowledging it, and now they have to lie about it. So this last one we play here, China.
Should we pursue cooperation and integration, or just succumb to division and confrontation? Should we work together to maintain peace and stability, or just sleepwalk into the abyss of a new Cold War? Should we embrace prosperity, openness, and inclusiveness, or allow hegemonic and bullying acts to throw us into depression? Should we deepen mutual trust for exchanges and mutual learning, or allow hubris and prejudice to blind conscience? The course of history will be shaped by the choices we make. An ancient China.
So I will be covering some more speeches and more development. The biggest thing to take away, and the thing that they're focusing most on, is de-dollarization and addition of new countries into BRICS. And this show unity have the West in shambles because they wanted BRICS, India, South Africa, Brazil. They really relied on Lula. Like, they have criticism of how Lula is toned generally. They expected Lula to be like, yeah, I condemn Putin for the Ukraine invasion. They thought he's going to be that guy. Which, once again, I think he should be harder on them. But he absolutely has not been the pawn that the West wanted. Because they wanted him to use him as an instrument to weaken BRICS. JB, CJ, was there anything you guys want to chime in? I just got two more quick receipts before I wrap up, but go ahead, guys.
I have a couple of receipts. I just don't want to overlap the ones you had because there was a couple of videos I was going to play that you
we can go to you
so
next.
maybe,
I'm going to show you guys.
Okay, yeah, and then go ahead, JB, if you were going to chime in, then I'll play my receipts here.
Well, it's just a question of really semantics, especially to you, Nick and CJ. Would you just say that Lula is just a bit softer in his rhetoric? And as far as this, it's like he's still in the right direction. It's just he's softening his rhetoric because
that is what
he kind of doesn't want to anger the West in that way. Is that
what Lula supporters, especially the ones I've talked to in Brazil, because you gotta understand, Brazil is the largest economy in South America, and Brazil always got to have some relationship with the United States. And with the more Western friendly countries in South America as well, like Chile and other countries that are more neoliberal, they got to work with them. So Lula has learned to relax his language over the years in order to work with the United States. And that is the criticism he generally gets, which I think is fair and legit in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But he's working in a way, he's trying to see, how can I advocate for sovereignty? How can I criticize war? How can I advocate for peace while still being in the good graces to do business with these people? Because Bolsonaro was a straight up Western simp. Now, once again, I think this criticism of Lula being weak is legit, but there's people who got completely wrong on the other end, where they would say, well, Bolsonaro is the pick of Lula is weak. No, Bolsonaro is a giant Israeli simp, giant fan of Donald Trump and the neocon American agenda, sold out indigenous Brazilians and the Brazilian working class to American companies, implemented privatization and neoliberalism and austerity politics. So Bolsonaro and the Brazilian right are the Western puppets. People need to understand that. Lula is not where we need him to be because he's still acting as a statesman who has to deal with the West. But he's making people in the Biden administration in the West upset because he's calling out the war in Ukraine. He's advocating for peace. He's calling for sovereignty and relationships and trade between South American countries which is not what they wanted. Hopefully that kind of. I didn't want to take it. Hopefully that kind of answer what you're talking about, JB. Go ahead if you want to chime in, or CJ.
Yeah, I can just show you a couple of receipts. A lot of the ones you already played. I might end up playing one of the ones you were going to play anyway. But let's go to this one here. This one is from Li Jingling, and we've been trying to get her on the show, and she's agreed to come on. But because the time difference,
I saw this. I'm glad you played this.
Yeah, the time difference.
She agreed to come on.
Yeah, she's already agreed to come on. We just can't. The time difference is literally like they're asleep now, and when we're up, like she's trying to do like 9 o'clock at night, and it's hard for me to do 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I definitely gotta be on that show because she's
so
I've seen this clip too, so I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah. So let's play it. It's only a minute long, but let's listen to what the critique is or the analysis is here.
The more U.S. use the dollar as a weapon, the more the countries in the global South are realizing, guys, we need to do something about it. So there is discussions going on. And even in South America, little people know, but we already have a mechanism there. Not so used still, but we have a mechanism. It's Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. We can do trade among these 4 countries without using the dollar. So this discussion is all around. And you know what? There's a funny thing about the currencies of the BRICS, because all of them start with R. It's renminbi from China, rubles from Russia, rupees from India, reais from Brazil, and rands from South Africa. So it's the 5 R.
Right.
Yeah.
I never thought about it. Yes.
Yeah, and it's the 5 R's against the 5 I's. We keep each other. This is
Bravo.
Great clip.
more
Great
US
let me
use-
stop it right there. And then I got another clip. This one is from Vijay Prasad. I can play this one here. We're not gonna play all of it, but he does make us some great points here. And like we always say about Democracy Now, the host is Amy is kind of sketchy, Amy Goodman, but the reason it's still a good show because they have great guests. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, to that point, CJ, I was about to say that they have great guests. That's why Democracy Now is even more frustrating, right? Because it's like Amy Goodman don't retain information. Like they will have people on that will explain to her why like January 6th is bullshit, right? Like she'll have a good guest on that will explain why this Trump nonsense is bullshit. Then she'll come on the next show and repeat the same liberal bullshit. You know what I mean? Like so she had great guests, great conversations. But then she don't retain it on the next show. She'll start. Anyway, I'll let it continue.
She goes right back to the rank propaganda. All right, so let's listen to VJ. He talks a little bit. Like I said, we're not watching the whole thing, just a section of it.
Nobody is saying, and certainly the BRICS don't consider themselves to be an anti-imperialist platform. I mean, these are very large countries in the world. You put together their gross domestic product. The global share of the GDP of the BRICS country is greater than the global share of the GDP of the G7. These operate as large countries. These are not, this is not a socialist bloc or an anti-imperialist bloc standing against the West. Quite the contrary. This is a group of large southern countries that are basically saying that no longer do they believe that the West's interest is equivalent to their interests. They are putting forward their national, to some extent, their regional interests, to the fore. They don't any longer want to be, quote unquote, the veranda boys, a phrase used by a Ghanaian politician in the 1960s. They don't want to sit and do whatever the West tells them. They're driving their own agenda. I think it's a little absurd to judge them based on a socialistic standard. These are not this is not a socialist bloc. Now, obviously, one has critiques of the operations of the BRICS states domestically. I mean, look at the Indian government. It has been savaging democracy. It has been going after the farmers and so on. But that doesn't mean that one doesn't have a dialectical understanding of the role of a country like India on the global stage. On the one hand, India is pursuing a full-scale capitalist project against its own people and so on. On the other hand, it is also turning around to the Western countries and saying, your issues are not our issues. I was very interested to see recently when some US congressman said, oh, maybe India should join NATO plus. The Indian foreign minister of a government of the right, Mr. Jaishankar, said in a television program, India is not interested in the NATO template. I thought that was an interesting statement. Let's take that statement seriously. How do we understand that statement? Well, the way to understand it, there's a kind of new mood that is visible in sections of the global South. In our institute, we are calling this the new non-alignment. When the non-alignment group was created in 1961 in Belgrade, all the countries that came to Belgrade weren't all countries with a socialist agenda. On the one side, you had Fidel Castro's Cuba, led by Dorticos, Prime Minister Dorticos at Belgrade. On the other side, you had very much pro-Western Ceylon, later Sri Lanka, at the meeting. So, this is a non-aligned emergence. This is not a socialist emergence. So I think that kind of criticism is literally tilting at windmills.
That is interesting to the way they're phrasing it. He's describing it a non-aligned alliance instead of a socialist alliance. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, Nick. That it's a is that a good description, or that's something you would say you kind of agree with, that this is a group coming together saying we don't think that our interest is not the U.S. interest, and this is about being non-aligned, not taking a side. What are your thoughts on that, Nick?
That goes back to the overall position that people like Lula have, right? Where he viewed BRICS as a great tool to expand the sovereignty and options of other countries, right? It's not necessarily driven on any sort of economic ideology. It's about sovereignty and independence from the West. Now you have Xi Jinping and Putin who have a very vested interest of expanding BRICS, and this is why China and Putin are advocates of the fast tracking route, while Lula is more interested in more of a we gotta make sure they align with our values. Gotta make sure we are very careful with expanding too fast. Meanwhile, Putin and Xi Jinping like, no, we need to meet people who are anti-West, who ready for de-dollarization as possible. So it is 100% accurate to say that these countries are in this alliance for a reason. Like India wasn't tricked by the West, who for a very long time trying to separate it with Russia and China, and that's where a lot of tensions rised up because they expected India to just straight up stop doing business with Russia, but they said no, this is not. It's not feasible. It's not feasible for us to go with you guys unhinged Russophobia. And there have been, don't get me wrong, there have been a lot of public officials, a lot of statesmen in India who condemned the Putin invasion, but they like, we still do it. We can't cut off Russia. Like, that's an absurd thing. And that's to his point that it's not necessarily in their interest to do that. They're not going to destroy their economy for that. And that's what their overall message has been. But hopefully that kind of answered it. But that's Dr. Vijay Prashad has a great analysis of the situation. And I think that was it's accurate to say as well. But JB, was there anything else you want to add?
Just a couple of headlines. We're not reading articles. I thought this was interesting because with BRICS, there's a lot of like, wow, this hasn't happened in a long time type of thing, or wow, this has never happened. And Saudi Arabia's foreign minister announces he's heading to South Africa.
Yeah, I remember I read something before with
go ahead.
Yeah, I read something before. I don't have the receipt with me net. Maybe I can share with you guys another time. Where Lula is actually not in favor of Saudi Arabia joining.
Yes, I saw that too. I think I might have it. If I do, I'll bring it up. I think I might have it. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, but so it'd be interesting to see how that play out. And many of the leaders who spoke at the BRICS said they were open to hear people out, and they're gonna have this robust discourse, because that's what happened when you have these groups is you have discourse. You got to figure out what the direction of this. So I'm gonna actually share my screen because it's something I want to end it on as well. Ahead. I'm gonna show you guys how the media have been spinning this. Now there's a ton of stories you can find with a ton of misleading garbage about BRICS, where they saying stuff like BRICS is unorganized, is not what people say it is. They'll bring up divisions, and that's kind of what they're trying to highlight. Because when I saw this BRICS thing going on, and I know my Twitter is extremely anti-imperialist, leftist, so they like rah BRICS. So you guys know I like to see what other people are saying. So I was looking at establishing sources and trying to see how they was reporting on the BRICS summit. So if you look at my Twitter, if you look at anti-imperialist leftists, we have we explain where each country is coming from, and we explain what the overall goal and mindset of BRICS. We explain some disagreements between the countries. But what I have seen is this from Western media, and I think it's cope, CJ, because I've seen disagreements, but and it's like the third story I've seen like this, where they say, well, this BRICS summit is emerging to deep divisions. There are deep divisions in BRICS. That's the narrative I've seen in the way. I've seen enough of these stories. I may put it together, a compilation, a tweet maybe. I may screenshot a few and made a tweet so I can find it easily. But this has been the narrative. BRICS divisions reemerge ahead of critical expansion debate. Now, I skimmed through this article. It's a long article. And this article is so much, there's so much bullshit here. I explained to you guys how Lula, he has like a different timetable, and Putin and Xi Jinping, they're more of a fast track. South Africa is all about expanding. You guys heard what their message is. They use the fact that a lot of these countries have different timetables and timelines and different theories on what country. They use that like, oh my God, BRICS is falling apart. They can't get along. They don't have a vision. Because they're not like NATO. NATO, we whip the countries. They all follow the will of the United States. If you question the United States, you're fucked. But unlike BRICS, they had debate. They had robust debate, and they had conversations. So they're framing it, and I want you guys to keep an eye out for this. And I'm probably going to do another coverage on another segment on this as more stories like this come out. Because I'm already seeing Western media already propagandizing people about what's going on here. I'm going to show you guys another one. Like this is them pushing the BRICS division. Look at this. China's awkward power play at the BRICS summit from the Washington Post. Another one I see, and this article is like, yeah, China. This is another example of China using their weight to bully countries and set agendas. And there's countries that are actually secretly upset at China because they're not. It's all this bullshit. and if you look at these articles as well, I'm summing them up for the sake of time because I may do a longer segment on this because it is very interesting. I've seen a few of them say stuff like this. There are divisions amongst BRICS regarding the Ukraine war and how to treat Vladimir Putin. And once again, I'm saying I have not seen that. Have you guys seen that? And you have South Africa that said they're not going to arrest Putin. You have Brazil who criticized the ICC warrant on Putin. But I've seen the Washington Post and I've already seen a lot of liberal media they're trying to say there's a division over Ukraine, which once again, I think is a rank lie. And they want to program their liberal readers and viewers to think that. But anyway, that's just a few examples. They're trying to isolate China among BRICS and get BRICS countries trying to get China. That's why this narrative of China's awkward power play at BRICS summit. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting because I was trying to see what the West was saying about that. And those are just examples of what they're saying. They're just trying to, BRICS not a big deal. And if they are a big deal, they underorganized. Yeah, I know they got big GDP. I know they got big world population, but don't worry, it'll be good. I think it's cool.
Yeah. Let me share this headline here along the same lines, and then we can probably. Let me close this advertise. Let me close this advertisement. BRICS expansion projected to reduce 90% of U.S. dollar oil sales settlements. That's 90%. So, and I'll just read the first paragraph here.
What now?
This is something here. Let me read that. I'll read it again for you, JB. BRICS
no. I heard it. I was just saying, what now?
But I want to say it again for myself. BRICS expansion is projected to reduce 90% of U.S. dollar oil sales settlement. That's crazy. And I'll read what it means is this here. It says BRICS could shift the global power dynamics in their favor by controlling the majority of the world's oil and gas trade. The bloc is keen on expansion by allowing Saudi Arabia and UAE, or United Arab Emirates, into the group. The inclusion of Saudi Arabia and the UAE into BRICS could have a paradigm shift in the oil economy, as it could force other countries to drift away from the US dollar. Therefore, the first step of the de-dollarization process could begin with oil and gas sales.
Ooh,
just crazy. Just crazy.
And another theme of these BRICS, I wonder if I can find some new ones. I'm actually kind of curious because another theme you see with these articles is the pew-pewing of the BRICS thread. And I'm not sure why they do that. Maybe the same reason why they say Ukraine's going to beat Russia, to keep people delusional to the bubble burst. I don't know why you would do that.
That could be
but they do the same way, like, yeah, they keep talking about de-dollarization. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. They overblown it. Why would you think that's not a big deal after what you just said? Here's some headlines. I was just curious. I was just looking at a few different time. I didn't see this one. How China's and Russia's clout is growing in Africa. So they in shambles there. That's them admitting the clout there. Vladimir Putin attends BRICS summit virtually to avoid war crimes arrest. Sorry, I was just looking at this out of curiosity, see what they because I'm going to be covering this throughout the course of this next week.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like we barely scratched the surface, even though it's a 30-minute segment or so. We barely.
So I'm actually surprised.
So much information, so many articles, Nick. I haven't even covered that because I discovered a new Twitter account, not new, but a Twitter account I'd never seen. That one I was just showing. Something Watchdog Guru, but they do nothing but BRICS, just all BRICS. They don't report on.
That's my timeline for the most part.
So it's a lot of stuff, a lot of headlines. I'm just like, wow, I didn't even know.
So there's gonna be an ongoing coverage for us. So we're gonna get a lot. There's gonna be a lot to cover because this event is a few days. There's gonna be a lot to cover here.
This is what the U.S. is doing. doing that. Happened with BRICS. Man, they're doing the cross there. They got the bees, the prayer bees. They're just like, oh Lord, what's gonna happen?
Big shout out to Rome.
I think we can wrap there.
Yeah, I
What's
was
up,
get some. Yeah, I was about to read some super chats. I see someone start a Rome comment. Let me read this.
Yep, I did.
BRICS taking over. Suck, we gotta have the shitty end of the stick, but we had it too good for too long. It's time to end the empire. Absolutely Rome. I think, and I made this argument before. I think it depends how it plays out, but I think overall the end of the U.S. empire is going to benefit the workers. It's a drain on our resources. The U.S. empire is a net positive, especially for us. Like, because maybe there are legitimate people that this shit gonna hurt, but shit, my family not wealthy. Like, what do we have to lose? I think the taking out the empire and the drain of the empire, I think is extremely important. But they get to some super chats.
Yes.
We have a few here. Thanks for the 199 Frank. Sleepy Joe, this country is over. And everyone see this motherfucker. So I can't believe that liberals have the audacity. I saw that right before we went live. That's why I was like, the fuck, you guys fact checking this shit that I saw? Then you really guys gonna say he's not asleep? And they say, oh well, actually he was paying attention. He's just paying attention like this. Fuck out of here, man. And literally, read that Newsweek article. What they say to fact check the fact that Joe Biden not sleeping is that he gave a speech 10 minutes later. They're like,
what does that have to do with anything?
They're like, yeah, exactly. They're like, they said there's a Twitter clip going viral showing Biden sleeping, but there's context missing in the clip. They missing the context that Biden actually was paying attention throughout multiple parts of the speech, and the fact that he gave a speech 10 minutes later. That shows that he wasn't in the sleep during this clip. Where he clearly wasn't sleeping. I may read the article.
That's a reach.
I skimmed it literally like 15 minutes before we went live. It's so the Biden supporters and Democrats they are in absolute shambles. Absolute shambles. This is solidarity super chat from Mitchell Sparks. That's the first time I've seen that name. So thank you for the solidarity super chat there, Mitchell. Another name I'm seeing for the first time, Monitor Talk. Thank you for the $5. This World Economic Forum Maui Fire land grab process is happening globally. Yeah. Like, they doing it right in the open. Like right in the open. You already got people being forcibly evicted. You had disaster capitalists offering people's pennies on the dollars. You had the government that is offering to buy the land on pennies on the dollar. After they have a tragic disaster relief where the water was cut off and people were blocked from leaving. And at the same time, the millionaire neighborhood was untouched, though. Do you guys believe the narrative of that story? I can't tell you what happened because I don't got evidence. But I can tell you for goddamn sure, I don't believe a goddamn thing they told me about it. That's just me saying. I'm not speaking for network. That's just me. Thank you for being a new member. Matt TV. Thank you for being new member there. Janice Anderson, always leave great comments. Thank you for $4.99. If they support Dems, they are right wingers who are just LARPing left. They attack actual leftists to attempt to manipulate. Absolutely, Janice. And last one, another solidarity super chat from Tammy. Great commentary in today's show. I think it was a good show. Very fun show. Tomorrow gonna be very fun. Because tomorrow we're gonna have the debate breakdown. I told you guys before. One of the reasons why I got in politics because my grandpa used to watch all the debates religiously. Like I told you, he was a big corporate media head watcher, right? And that's why as a kid I used to watch this shit. And I couldn't do like an analysis on how this bullshit. I'll be a kid. I'll just be watching like that guy is full of shit. I don't know how, but that guy is definitely full of shit. Now you watch it like, damn, it's interesting how these people are definitely lying to us. I couldn't explain to us how, but that's how it's always been a habit for me to watch those things because of my grandpa. I blame him. So I'm gonna watch it, and I'm mostly interested in seeing what they say about China, Taiwan, Ukraine, especially the conflict between the neocon wing of the Republican Party and the people who are getting the Ukraine issue right. The China segment is going to be unhinged. It's going to be them competing on who's going to go with war with China the most. So anyway, I'm interested in that. We're going to have a live stream coverage of that. My last thing I'm gonna say, make sure you guys support us on GoFundMe. I'm sure CJ will share the link here as we close. That's how we pay Aaron. We want to make sure we take care of Aaron. We actually had a good showing on GoFundMe the last go around, but we gotta make sure that Aaron continues to get paid for fair labor value. We had a good month last month, but that doesn't mean
right. Every month we gotta try to have a good month.
She still gotta get paid this month. So if you guys want to help us pay our workers a fair labor value, so we don't be hypocrites. If you guys want to help RB and not be hypocrites and help us pay our workers, please, if you a class trader, if you have extra money, even $2-3 to help us pay our workers here, that GoFundMe is the best way to do it. So I appreciate all you guys who leave super chats. I appreciate everyone who support on Patreon. You guys allow us to try to live our values the best we can, because something I try to take very seriously. So thank you guys. That's all I have. CJ, JB, actually, what you have coming up?
Yeah, he wants to shout something out. Yeah, go ahead, JB.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you guys have not yet, just to let you guys know, I started the RBN Orlando chapter over the weekend.
Yes.
JB, let me tell you something, sir. You don't understand. Maybe it's just me. Like this shit, that shit. You starting this chapter because people don't know behind the scenes you were very hesitant. So this shit is big for me that you decided to start it and you got this shit going. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Yeah, it's a labor of love because we want to be an example. We don't just want to talk the talk. We want to walk the walk.
Yeah, exactly.
Outside of the independent media space, especially because we want to show the legacy left, how it's done, right? That's what we want to do. And one of the things that I want to do is, if you guys have not, we're going to be starting our first action. We democratically selected our first action to be on September 23rd of this year. We're trying to fundraise. We have until Monday, September 4th to raise $750. If you guys have not, then you guys can please donate. We are doing it. We're doing it through Cash App, so you guys can go $ Orlando RBN if you guys would like to. That's being shared right now in the chat. But if you guys would like to, we're trying to do basically a care package for all the people who are houseless in the city of Orlando. These care packages include things like razor blades for shaving. It includes feminine hygiene products. It includes things like it's including things like feminine hygiene products, razors for shaving. It's including
shit people need.
Yeah, so a lot of socks, things like that. So we're getting these care packages together, and we're trying to do at least 100 people within the Central Florida or Orlando area. And we already did budgeting for this, so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to raise money for this. So if you guys can help out, so that we can, make sure this gets out on the ground. This is going to be something that I am trying to get done. So I just want to say thank you to the people. Thank you to thank you to our members of the chapter. We had a great we actually talked for 5 hours, bro. We talked for 5 hours.
Yeah,
it's amazing. So
yeah, it's great when you have people like-minded. And we were talking before, and it's a very exciting time because you guys remember when we used to talk shit in the meetings a year and a half ago about where the shit's going. You know what I mean? The long-term vision is starting to work out. Like, we was talking shit. You know what I mean? We're going to have all these chapters in different cities. We're going to have different events. I coming off an event. You just coming off an event. CJ had an event. Like, the long-term vision is starting to become true. And I got to admit, it is very satisfying. And I see Rome was in the chat, and maybe Rome, you can get more. Me and Rome was talking. Me and Rome, we want to go to Orlando. I don't know, maybe for the next event, but maybe like we will go to LA. We might try to.
Oh man, that'd be fire right there.
Imagine Nick, Rome, CJ, Skid Row, Nick, Rome, JB,
that'd be fire.
So that's something that we plan on doing later this year. All the visions that we had in the early days, we've been through a lot, my friends, my family, but we're starting to see it materialize, and it feels good. And we just getting started, man. We really are just getting started. That's the exciting part about it. So,
and we can't do it without all of you. Like all of you, like the library being renovated, that couldn't happen without all your donations. Like the diaper run they did the first time the tour for the poor was in KC, Nick. That couldn't happen without the donations.
I couldn't do the school supply run.
Exactly. And then the Christmas, I gave out $50 gift cards. People forget about that. That was a long time ago. Gave out $50 gift cards 2 Christmas ago, $2,000. That couldn't happen. JB, we raised money for JB housing, $5,000. Raised money for my housing, $3,500. We want to do these things, but we can't do it without you. JB's raising his fundraiser right now. Nick has a fundraiser right now. Rome has a fundraiser right now. We have a fundraiser for our labor. Like, we are about doing the shit. We ain't about just talking just talking.
CJ.
Go ahead, Rome. I mean, go ahead.
CJ, to that point, like, have you guys ever talked to someone about, like, I was just talking to people out there. I was talking to this lady. Well, she was like, "Wait, you paying? You gave me school supply?" Like, the people were shocked. I'm like, "Yeah, like our community fundraising that allowed me to give it back to the community." She's like, "Wait, there are people that actually give money for causes I know this sounds weird, guy, but this is literally what you're saying." She's like, "Wait, I don't understand. People giving you money so you can help people. But what did they get out of it?" I'm like, "No, they're doing that to build community." And I was telling her this, we need to, and remember I told you this is how I do it. I'm like, we need to change our culture. I was telling her, like, we trying to change the culture. We bring people together to help people. And then after I told her that's why she's going to volunteer with me later, because she's like, "Oh shit, I want to help." Like, when people hear that other people like you guys are donating and helping our shit, they like, "Shit, I want to do something too." And that's how you build community using mutual aid. I already got a few people that said they want to help just because they see you guys and people that want to help. Anyway, it's very inspiring. JB, I'll pass to you for last thoughts.
Well, just want to say thank you to Marcia for the $25. Thank you so very much as well. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what's that?
I'll see you guys for tomorrow. You can hit up.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, so we'll probably start around 8 p.m. Central, Nick, because the debate starts at 6. So maybe we'll start 15 minutes before we start, so we can kind of give our pre-debate sort of talk. Idea. And then so roughly everybody, I'm just trying to give everybody a heads up. Roughly expect our stream around that time, 9 p.m. Eastern, maybe 8:45 Eastern or something like that. Before, I'm sorry, the debate starts 6 Eastern, so that's 3. I'm tripping. The debates start at 6 Eastern. So anyway, look for it. Yeah, look for it, and we'll let you guys know. But
yeah, I think it's a good idea for at least for us to talk a little bit before. We don't want to rush in and the debate start, and we can't say. It'd be a good idea to start
right.
So anyway, we'll let you guys know. It should be a fun show. Like, we had a lot of fun the last time we did this. So, but anyway, I see you guys. Have a good one.
All right, and then I'll probably play a closeout video for you guys. This is pretty funny. Go ahead, JB, if you're going to say something or want to play something.
There was a couple chats that I had started that I just wanted to.
Yeah, let's do those. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and we should check and see if we got any rumble rants and any Rockfin. Let me pull up Rockfin and see if we got. So while you do that, go ahead, sir.
That's a beautiful name. Alice was also my great grandmother's name. So Alice La Rosa says, "You guys are nailing it all. Thank you." Says the disaster in Maui didn't take weeks for the fishy stuff to come out like it usually did in the past. People are up with what's going down right now. We are done with the lies and BS, and they think that we're stupid, but no more can they pull the wool over our eyes. We got it. We're awake. No more bullshitting the people. We got their number. I love that. We got their number.
Yeah, and that is spot on. That is a spot on critique or analysis, and thank you for the kind words.
Also from Egg 64 says Biden's walk up the Air Force One stairs was a joke. Oh goodness, thank you. And then thank you to Samuel says I can't cash out from Mexico, but here's some LOL great work. Love the movie. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great movie.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right. So
I check Rockfin, JB. There are no what is it, tips on Rockfin.
Okay.
And then on Rumble, I'm on there now. Yeah, I don't see any Rumble rants, so we're good on that too.
right.
I think that's it. We shouted out everything. If you're able to donate, we have plenty places, plenty sort of things that's going on that you can donate to. Make sure you donate to the Orlando chapter. That's our latest chapter to get off the ground. Just so happy that JB is doing that, and make sure you donate to that. Donate to the library. Donate to the school supplies. We're really in the community, and you know, we can use your help if you have it. And you want to give to a cause that's actually tangibly helping the community right now, not some, you know, in the future. This could happen. We're taking your money and putting direct, tangible use to it. So if you would rather your money go to that instead of a politician, we would more than be happy if you donated to one of our causes. So we're going to take you out with this video. Unless you had anything else, JB, I'm going to go ahead with the video and we can sign off, sir.
Just a shout out to KD. He's one of the people in the Orlando chapter of RBN. Shout out to you, KD.
Yes. All right. So it's a classic when Cornel West was on CNN. Let's watch.
The field is growing in the 2024 presidential race with former Vice President Mike Pence and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum entering the race. The total number of Republican candidates now stands at 12. This comes as two Democrats are challenging President Biden for the White House in the Democratic primary. That's RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson. And just this week, a third-party candidate jumped into the race, Dr. Cornel West, who launched his bid as a member of the People's Party. And Dr. West joins us now. So, Dr. West, let me start with the obvious question. How are you running to win? Or are you running to get your issues of importance that you think Joe Biden is not paying enough attention to the forefront?
Well, I mean, one, my dear brother, that you always have a calling to win. You want to bear witness at the highest level of quality, integrity, and honesty that you can. So, yes, I'm trying to push toward the finish line. Why? Because I want to reintroduce America to the best of itself. And it's fairly clear that Brother Trump, neo-fascist gangster, not the best. Brother Biden, neoliberal hypocrite, not the best. I want the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Dorothy Day, Abraham Joshua Heschel, and Edward Said, and Chief Joseph, and Grace Lee Boggs, and Louise Moreno. These are those fighting for poor and working people. Both parties stand in the way of the empowerment of poor and working people. Both parties tied Wall Street, militarism, Pentagon, tied to Silicon Valley. What about the 60% of precious Americans of all colors who are struggling every day and month to put food on the table and are hardly doing it, while the 1% is simply tied to their quests for the luxurious life? American democracy not just is at stake, the whole planet, Brother Jake. You know that, man, with fossil fuels. And look at the debt ceiling agreement. We can make a deal with Brother Manchin in terms of his pipeline that will do in not just working class people's spaces, but ecological collapse, given what's going on the East Coast. But we can't make a deal with him in terms of voting rights in regard to the filibuster. That's Brother Biden. We need something better. Where's the best of the country?
Yeah.
Not just working people here, but around the world, because the militarism abroad is something that I'm deeply concerned about, be it in Latin America, be it in Africa, be it in the Middle East.
So I hear you, but these elections often do come down to a binary choice between the Democrat and the Republican. Dr. Lawrence Tribe, a Harvard University professor, as you were, tweeted, WTF, you know what that stands for. Does Cornel West really want to help the GOP nominee win the way Ralph Nader helped George W. Bush defeat Al Gore in 2000? Please stop this foolishness before you really hurt the things you care to help, unquote. His fear, obviously, that you would sap away enough votes of progressives who otherwise would vote for Joe Biden and thus deliver the White House to the Republican, making things worse than they would be under Biden, in Lawrence Tribe's view. Your response?
Well, one, I mean, Brother Tribe, he's looking at the world again through these Manichaean views. You get either this or that, Tweedledee, Tweedledum, frick or frack. neo-fascist catastrophe, neoliberal disaster, or disasters better than catastrophes? Absolutely. But are disasters disasters? Absolutely still. So that the idea that Brother Trump would reduce, my Brother Tribe would reduce what I'm trying to do and focus on this unbelievable suffering and social misery of poor and working people around the world to some ego vanity. I said, good God Almighty, what are you doing? Do you actually think that the rich legacies of the figures that I talked about can be reduced to their ego vanity when they moved in the electrical political context? Part of the problem is people who believe it's either the Democrats or the Republicans have left out serious discussion of mass incarceration, left out of what's been going on around the world, 800 military bases around the world. From the vantage point of the West Bank, our precious Palestinian brothers and sisters, what does it look like in terms of the bombs dropped by the U.S. government by either party? Same is true with working people in other parts of the world. This is a moral and a spiritual issue. It's not simply narrow strategic thinking of neoliberals who view the world in terms of either Republicans or Democrats. Brother Jake, we will never defeat fascism, which is on the march, by milquetoast neoliberalism. Neoliberalism will only be a caretaking postponement of the fascism. We got to get at the source of it. That's why I'm going straight into Trump country, my brother. I'm talking to some of my white brothers and sisters who are following the neo-fascist Pied Piper. I'm concerned about your suffering. Look another way. The words of Martin King. Let us embrace one another by accenting our best. That includes acknowledging those who right now are on the other side. We want realignment. We want what my dear brother Clifton West calls a paradigm shift in American politics. That's in part what this is about, my brother.
Let me ask you just a practical question. Where do the People's Party, where will you be on the ballot? Will you be on the ballot in Michigan? Will you be on the ballot in Wisconsin? I don't think the People's Party was on the ballot in all 50 states last time. Are you hoping to get on the ballot in every state or even just the battleground states?
We're trying to get on the ballot in every state, which means we've got to get the requisite signatures in each state. We are in process of ensuring to make sure we get on that ballot. As you know, People's Parties broke away from Brother Bernie's attempt in 2016. So we're very new at this in that regard. But most importantly, we just want to make sure that our fellow citizens get a chance to see what the best of America is about. The best of America and the best of any nation is about fighting for poor and working people, no matter what color, gender, sexual orientation, and not just confining it to the states. I'm talking about solidarity with Iranians dealing with fascist Iranian elites. I'm talking about solidarity with workers in Brazil. I'm talking about solidarity with workers in Guatemala. This is an international project, my brother. That's what Martin Luther King was concerned when he said the bombs dropped in Vietnam, fall in ghettos and hoods and barrios, white